Hello and welcome to Mad Git Radio episode number 6. I'm Andrew and I'm joined as always by my courageous co-host, Paul.
What's going on, guys? Hope everyone's good.
And we have a very special episode for you tonight.
Looking forward to talking about some new 2.0 goodness.
So this is a very special episode. We have some tasty treats for everyone as we're coming closer to the Christmas holidays. So we've been asked by Blonde Beer, the All-Father of Ninth Age, to do some 2.0 content for everyone to build up the hype as we're getting closer to the release date. So, because I've been a long-time moaner on the Empire forums, we've been allowed to review the Empire Sonnstahl 2.0 book. Paul, are you excited?
I'm actually quite excited, despite the fact that my book is not coming out until, like, a ball here before Christmas. But I'm actually pretty excited for this. I think it's because I play you quite a lot. So, apart from my own book, this is probably the book that I know the best. So it's quite exciting to actually see how the rules teams are going about changing stuff and kind of addressing some of the kind of concerns and stuff that the community's been asking for. So it's quite interesting from that point of view. So yeah, I'm definitely excited.
Awesome. So before we get underway, there's a couple things that we need to say before we get into the nitty-gritty of the book. First and foremost is this is obviously part of the Advent calendar. So we've been given access to the book and it's still kind of pre-release state. So whilst we have what we believe is the most up-to-date version of the Empire book, there might still be tweaks and changes between now and release date, particularly to do with points. So we will discuss points, but there's a major caveat over that, in that we've only got access to what we have. So those points might change, they might increase, they might decrease. However, I feel that a lot of the good things that Empire get in 2.0 is to do with the points differences. So I thought that we should mention the points, but just in big neon lettering, don't blame us if points change between now and release. The other big caveat is that whilst we have a copy of the 2.0 rules, it is not the most up-to-date copy that we know of. So we will be talking about rules as they come up in the book, but again, these might have changed, the names might have changed, so we can only really go on what we've got, but we hope that it will give all those courageous marshals out there a bit of an idea as to what to expect from the Empire book.
Absolutely, and also don't, take what we say and kind of use it as potential ammunition against the rule guys, because for all that we're giving you some of the information to this book, we've not seen the other books, and like Andrew says, we've not seen the final rule book. So by all means, get excited for what, the type of information that we can talk about, but take it with a pinch of salt, and that you don't know what the other books have either. So before anyone, decides to cause a shitstorm on the forums, just please bear that in mind. So be nice to us, be nice to the real people that have been bending over backwards to get this out as quickly as possible.
Be nice to Dan. Felix, you can have a go at, it's fine. But be nice to... Love you, Felix. Yeah, so exactly what Paul says. But I'm just excited to dive in. So, well, I've been looking forward to this. So, will we just dive in?
Yeah.
Okie doke. So, the Army Special Rules. These have mostly stayed the same. There's obviously been some tweaks to bring up the blessings to 2.0 standards. So, like before, any model with blessings, so that's your prelates, they give the unit that they're in hatred, except models with harnessed. And harnessed is a new rule which is essentially restricted to mounts. So, if you have your prelate in a knight unit, he's not given hatred to the horses the same way that he didn't give it to them before. And like before, the prelates have access to 3 bound spells, which are power levels 4 and 8. Paul, do you want to just run us through what the bound spells are in 2.0 again?
Yeah, so we've got... are you giving me this so that you can listen to me pronounce these names wrong?
Maybe. Well, I found out a couple of weeks ago that I've been pronouncing Voland wrong the entire, year. That
oh,
the
shit, yeah, that was me that pointed that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Fucking Warriors player.
It's your turn.
Okay, so... Oh, okay, it's my turn to fuck up. Alright, so the first one we've got is Ullor's Blessing.
Ullor's, yeah.
That? So the target receives an Aegis 5 up against melee attacks. Aegis is just a new word for ward save. Suna's Blessing. Target gains flaming attacks. All enemy units in base contact with one or more targets of the spell when the spell is cast suffer d6 hits, strength 4, AP 1, and they also receive flaming attacks and magical attacks. So I believe magical attacks is an addition to 2.0.
I think it was before, actually, thinking about it. I think it was in a previous edition, but they took it out to just flaming, so it's obviously they put it back in.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we've got Volan's Blessing, which is the re-rollable wound rolls with melee attacks.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I think they pretty much just stayed the same.
Yeah. And they're a caster's unit and augment. So in terms of the old kind of just prelate build, because the changes to the bound spells, I'm not sure that you can do the full prelate, or sorry, the kind of thing that I was doing. So I ran for a long time 2 prelates and an altar, Arcane Engine. And I don't think that's going to be effective now because of the way the bound spells work. And if you want to find out how the bound spells work, go over to the Veil Renegades podcast because they went through the entire magic phase. Yeah, so I think we'll get onto our wizards in a second, but I think keep in mind how bound spells operate because I think that's a big part of the synergies that we can now do.
Even just bringing in hatred to a unit is massive.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you say, I mean, I think getting off bound spells is going to be that much more difficult, especially because magic as a whole is far more attractive. So there's more likely to be Varian wizards running around that it's going to be easier for them to get rid of these spells, but just having access to these 3, if you're bringing a prelate anyway, then it's pretty nice to have that option.
Yeah.
And they're all fairly solid spells. So still nice to have access to in the book.
I think so, yeah, but I think it's going to be kind of, you take 1 prelate now, and you take that prelate to put pressure, because if you get those blessings off, great, but if you don't, then you're eating dice away from your wizard's spells that he's casting. So
I think it's more likely that if you can somehow get rid of your opponent's dice, then if you've got enough left over, that's probably going to be when you can get these off.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even having a 5-up ward save is pretty nice.
Yeah. It's saved my bacon a few times in there.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool. So we'll talk about our kind of general ideas and builds and things like that at the end. But if we push on to the next army special rule, which is the parent support system. So this has caused a lot of heartache and kind of frustration within the Empire community for a long time, or the US community, simply because it's a really cool mechanic. It's very fluffy, but it's often very restrictive in playstyle and not as effective as it could be. So they have tweaked the parent support system. It's largely remained the same. So your parent units are still marked on their stat lines. So things like heavy infantry over 20-man squads are parent units. Imperial Guard are still parent units. They still treat all support units as insignificant. And when a parent unit performs a charge against a non-fleeing enemy unit, before actually performing the charge move, any support units within 6 can do their support and charge, and likewise, if they are charged, they can still do the counter charge, and you still get to add up your rank bonuses up to 6. So that was a big part about forcing your opponent to essentially go for the support units, which still there. Support units themselves have changed, in that now all support units within 6 inches of a parent unit gain fighting extra rank and may use shooting attacks from the 3rd rank. So this is massive, because if you were like me and you played a big primary unit and 2 support units either side, a lot of the time you were taking a great tactician to go in that big unit to give fighting extra rank to either the big unit if it was in combat, or the 2 supports. They were in combat but the big one wasn't. So now, right off the bat, those units have that order, which I think that's really massive. And that's not to mention the shooting from 3 ranks, which is very, very sexy.
Like, I was playing around after reading the book, just with like potential lists and things, and just thinking about it, like if you've got 2 20-man squads with like spears, they can all attack.
Yeah.
Just because of the spear rules, and then because now of the support, you're guaranteed if they're at full strength, they're all getting to attack from the get-go, which is really nice. And like you say, with the being able to fire in 3 ranks for charge reactions, it's really, really nice.
And it's not just for charge reactions either. Like, they can just shoot normally in 3 ranks, yeah. So the current thought in and about the form is that you have probably a big unit of spear or a big unit Imperial Guard, and either side of them you have 3 ranks of handgunners or crossbows. So maybe, I don't know, between 15 or 3 ranks of 6, or even 7. Because you just got to watch. You don't really want to go in a line. There's nothing stopping you going in line formation, but it's probably better just to keep that rank bonus in case they do get a cheeky charge off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot of firepower getting fired out. I mean, there's still the issue that if you do use the support system like this, it makes you quite stagnant in terms of movement, and you really need open plains in front of you. Like, if you've got a lot of terrain and stuff in between you and the enemy, you're going to lose effectiveness. But this is going to synergize particularly nicely with one of the orders. Do you want to go through the orders, Paul? And all the other supports are the same, so you still count the ranks for steadfast purposes of the big unit into the support units. If you voluntarily immediate after a parent unit within 6 inches voluntarily chooses a charge reaction, the support units can stand and shoot just like they could before. Obviously, that's more effective with the 3 ranks, and the counter charge is still the same. So yeah, orders.
So for the most part, are fairly recognisable. So the first one on the double, which provides +1 advance rate and +4 march rate. We've got Steady Men, which the target must roll an additional d6 when taking discipline tests and disregard the highest d6 roll, as is the case at the moment. A unit that receives this order and passes a rally test doesn't become shaken, which is a new mechanic to the core rules. And the reform that is made after rallying doesn't prevent the unit from moving and or shooting, but it still counts as having moved for shooting purposes. Ready Aim Fire has had a bit of a change, so this now provides accurate. And the final order is Brace for Impact, which provides fighting extra rank, as it does just now. So, some tweaks. What do you think of these?
Ready Aim Fire orders the big change, changing it from the +6 to the accurate, which is really nice. Especially now that you're kind of encouraged to take the bigger units of light infantry because of the fire in 3 ranks. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're potentially talking anywhere between 15, probably 30 light infantry shots per unit that are now accurate.
So it's basically an extra 6 inches of, not more range, but just improved shooting over that extra 6 inches. We are not taking that extra modifier.
Yeah, you just ignore the long range. So for a lot of the time, that means that, like, your handgunners, who you're not going to move them because they're unwieldy anyway, probably. So they're going to be hitting on 4s. So say you've got a big unit in the middle and then 2 wings of handgunners, so 15 each, so 30 total. So if they're firing at the same target, then 15 hits on average because you're hitting on 4s, and depending on what the target is, you're maybe getting, I don't know, between 7 to 10 wounds, depending on what the target is, maybe even more. So stuff like elves, you got a unit swordmasters making their way towards this, they're going to think twice because that's going to pump out a lot of damage to especially toughness 3 guys.
What do you think of the change to on the double? Because there is a slight reduction there in movement, but not in march.
Yeah, so because of the changes to the movement, the order is now +1 advance rate and +4 march rate. So that means that you're now super speedy marching, but you're not so fast just normal, because normally before it was just flat +2 movement unless you were charging. So you're now movement 5, but you can march, so march 8, so 12, so it's the same as before.
So the only difference is your movement is reduced by 1.
Which is fine.
March the same potential as last time.
I don't think that's a big deal. It was always nice to give that order if you were running into a deployment zone for breakthrough or something like that.
Yep.
So it still fulfills the purpose, and because it's just +1 march rate, +1 advance rate now, that works out the exact same for charges because it's your advance rate plus your dice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all the same. One of the other additions to this, the ranges are the same. So a character with orders, i.e. your BSB, can only give within 6 inches. Your general can give within 12, and only models of standard size can be affected. Remember, before we get onto it, the standard includes cavalry. and that'll come up in a wee second.
Yeah, we mentioned the shaken mechanic as well, so for the steady main order, that's going to come in really handy, because I think you can attest to your guys failing leadership tests and running away. So being able to basically offset the new mechanic, which is going to have a big effect on those units that don't make those leadership tests. So that's really, really cool.
So for anyone that doesn't know, shaken, when you pass a leadership test, you count as being shaken. And I think there's other things in the game now that can cause units to be shaken. But the big one is when you've just passed the test. So when you're shaken, you are -1 to hit in combat, you're +1 to be hit, and you can't perform any voluntary moves. So you can't shoot, you can't march. I don't think you can even move. I think it's just like before, where you just reform and that you're basically stood there shitting your pants for a turn. So if you rally in an awkward position, which happens quite a lot, but you're within order range, you can offset it slightly. And even if that buys you a turn to get your other stuff realigned, then it's a pretty big thing. I mean, you're mainly given this order for the additional d6 to make them cold-blooded, but that's a nice little change given the change in the rules.
Yeah, it's quite fluffy as well. Makes sense for a kind of...
Yeah, Marshall verbally abusing a unit to stand still. So the weapons, again, the weapons have been updated for 2.0. The big change is the cavalry pick. So the cavalry pick is now just a melee weapon. Attacks made with it gain +2 armor penetration, but it can't be enchanted with weapon enchantments. The repeater gun is the same, range 24, 3 shots, strength 4, AP2, unwieldy. The repeater pistol is still range 12, 3 shots, strength 4, AP2, quick to fire. If you get the 2 pistols, you get 4 shots. Long rifle is range 48, shots 1, strength 5, AP3, multiple wounds 2 against standard, unwieldy and accurate. The bracer pistols are range 12, shots 2, strength 4, AP2, quick to fire, and the count is paired weapons in close combat.
So, on the most part, pretty much the same, just adapted to the new strength and AP.
Yeah.
Changes, pretty much.
I know that there was some people asking for changes to the long rifle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it doesn't really... Normally if you take or in 1.3 when you took the Artificer, you normally just took him naked. Or you might give him like a handgun or a pistol, because a lot of the time he's standing still, or he's standing in a light infantry unit anyway. So there wasn't much reason to take the long rifle, but they've chosen to keep it the same. I don't think it's a big thing, but...
I always thought that looked really good. Just being able to, especially against Cav, I thought that was quite a nice addition, just to kind of, even against 5-man, 10-man units, being able to maybe take 1 or 2 off just with one guy potentially is really good.
Well, before, so in 1.3, the long rifle was 20 points. Now it's 15 points.
Okay, so they have made it a little bit more attractive.
So it is cheaper. I mean, the handgun's gone down from 12 to 5, so that's a big difference as well. So I think you might see it a little bit more, but I don't. It's still not. It doesn't scream "take me." Mm-hmm. But yeah, so no big changes for the weapons.
So the hereditary spell.
Big changes.
So as most people should know, just for the magic spoilers, all the different armies now come with their own hereditary spell, which is unique to that army, which is very cool. So Empire's hereditary spell is called Liberal Magics. And basically what this allows the wizard to do is select a number 1 spell from any of the other lores which that wizard would have access to, but has not taken in this particular battle. So, for instance, if your wizard's taken Pyromancy, but could have taken Divination, for its hereditary spell, it could theoretically take the number 1 spell from Divination.
Yeah.
So, really nice.
Really, really nice.
Really cool spell.
So, for the wizard, he can take... The lores we now have access to are Cosmology, which is the new addition. So we lost Thaumaturgy but gained Cosmology, which I think is an awesome trade-off. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that.
No, it's definitely better.
We still have Alchemy, we have Pyromancy, and we have Divination. So, just to run through the wizard levels. So if you're a wizard novice, you get the number 1 spell or the hereditary spell. So for novices, the hereditary spell doesn't really make a difference. For apprentices, you get spells 2 and 3 of the lore you choose, but you can swap one of those for the hereditary. So now you're starting to get into the combo areas where you could take Alchemy, but get the Fireball, because it's the number 1 spell from Pyro. and you've got an alchemical fire, which is still the attribute from alchemy. But the big synergies, the big kahuna, is if you if you take the Wizard Master, because he gets the 2, 3, 4, 5 spells from the lores, and he can swap any of those for the number 1 spell of that lore, the number 6 spell of that lore, or the hereditary spell. So there is a lot of very tasty combos that you can now do with your Empire Wizards.
I really like cosmology for this army. It's somewhat similar to divination, but because you have the flexibility within each spell to basically turn it on its head and basically cause damage instead of providing that buff, I think is really nice because it gives you that extra means of inflicting damage and trying to level the playing fields a little bit more rather than just buffing your own guys. I think it's really cool. And I think all the spells look really good in cosmology.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a strong choice. I mean, the thing is, the hardest thing you're going to have to do is choose, because all 4 of the lores are really good. And like you say, some of the potential synergies that you can get, I mean, there's nothing stopping you running multiple cheap wizards. If you want to do that, I think that's definitely a lot more attractive now with the changes to magic. But I think with this army certainly needing the buffs to really compete in close combat, I think that addition of cosmology is really nice.
Yeah. I think as well, like, I mean, this is a general statement across the board. It's not really an Empire thing, but because you know what you're getting in terms of magic or spells, you can cater your magic selection to your playstyle. So if you want to go, multiple infantry blocks, you may be wanting to take alchemy or cosmology to keep those guys buffed up. If you want to go kind of gun-liney or fast and shooty, something like, what Felix ran with the multiple Rider units, although that's a little bit nerfed now, but you can still do something similar. You might want to take Pyro just to get that extra bit of damage spells, or Divinations, obviously, in previous editions has been the go-to for Empire, but it's probably been ousted now. But I definitely agree. I think Cosmology and Alchemy are the 2 really tasty options, I think, in terms of magic.
Yeah, just comparing Cosmology to Divination, the one advantage that Divination has is the ability to cast some of their spells via auras.
Yeah.
So you can simultaneously affect multiple units, whereas Cosmology you can't do that.
I mean, that's a big thing as well, yeah, because so often, because the Empire, you have to keep everything in your bubble. Your stuff's going to be close together anyway, so auras are a nice way of getting that effect of the spell across the board. I
really like the changes that you've got now. In terms of the changes specifically to the book and having this extra spell, or this extra lore rather, I think it just makes the magic phase a little bit more exciting. I think people will probably look forward to this a lot more, alongside the changes to magic just generally.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that's really cool. I really like what they've done.
I think it's a statement that we've not even looked at the Wizard's profile yet. We've not looked at his points or anything. And I would say that Wizards are now not all included in Empire armies.
Just so flexible.
Yeah, I think because of that hereditary spell, and because of the lores we have access to, and the buffs that we need as an army to compete, I think that a Wizard's now absolutely not included. And it's just whether, I don't know, if you maybe want to try out multiple low-level Wizards or one big kahuna. But yeah, I think the way I was thinking about it was taking alchemy as, like, taking a Wizard Master, using alchemy as the lore, but taking the first spell from Divination, which is Know Thy Enemy. So +2 offensive skill, +2 defensive skill, and +2 agility.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you also get the aura option. I mean, that's just bananas.
Yeah, it's really cool. And initiative, or agility as it's now called, is so huge in the game. So being able to buff that, and because of the changes to some of the weapons, so spears in particular, because you have access to that in the book, like spears I think are even more dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
Because effectively, if you get that spell off, if you're charged with a spear, you're probably going to be going first. So even against elite stuff.
Agility 7.
Bananas.
Yeah, that's like...
That's so cool.
I noticed in the Armor Time podcast, they've done a couple about 2.0, and it's been really interesting listening to them talk about the role of the spear, and particularly against elves. So now, a lot of the time, lower agility stuff is striking at the same time if they've got spears, if they're charged. I mean, that's a massive deal for Empire, because any Empire player will know the heartache when you go up against elves. You get in combat with elves, and on paper, you should do damage to elves because you're wounding them on 4s or 3s normally, which is like Empire never wound things on 4s or 3s, so it's really nice. But they just decimate you before you get to attack. Whereas now, with your heavy infantry, at least, you're striking at the same time, so there's huge potential to put a lot of hurt on certain armies, particularly elves, which is always a good thing, because elves should get their faces kicked in. Not as bad as dwarves, so we were already hitting before dwarves, so...
Cool. So we move on to the special equipment.
Let's do it.
Cool. So we'll start off with weapon enchantments.
Oh, there's so many sexy things here.
So just as a general point, if this is kind of what it's going to be like for all the books, then this is a really good sign that they have put more thought into the individual armies with regards to their own unique equipment. So this is really good.
Oh, one thing I should say before we get in. So, talking to Ed about names, right? So, apparently the background team want everyone's feedback about the names of special rules and items. So, a big part of the beta testing for 2.0 will be getting feedback from not only the rules, but also the names and the kind of how it fits in with the background and things like that. So, Ed has threatened to rename our hereditary spell Magical Diarrhea, because I have made fun of the Equitane hereditary spell, which is called Breath of the Lady.
Which is a bit creepy.
Do you agree that's a shit name?
I get where he's coming from. The problem with that name is people will rip into that. And because they have the rule where she can hang out in the back, second rank.
Just breathing on people.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just not right.
So yeah, basically if the 2.0 book comes out and the hereditary spell is called Magical Diarrhea, that's my bad. And I'll apologise for that when that happens. So keep that in mind, when we're talking about the names for the items, because if you think something's really cool or something doesn't sound as cool, I'm sure the background team would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Cool. So, weapon enchantments. The first one is called the Light of Sonnstahl. This is a hand weapon enchantment. Attacks made with the weapon wound automatically always have AP 10 and magical attacks. So basically the same as the current Sonnstahl.
Yeah, and it's 170 points, so same price.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the only change there, and it makes sense, is that they've changed it from the Sonnstahl to the Light of the Sonnstahl. So, I mean, the whole fluff for the Empire is that the Sonnstahl never leaves Avras. It never leaves the temple. So why would multiple marshals have, or multiple knight commanders have the Sonnstahl? It doesn't make sense from a fluff perspective. So the Light of is kind of a kind of Narsil Flame of the West thing, where maybe it's a shard of the original Sonnstahl. I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along. This is official Empire fluff now. So basically it's a sword that's like the Sonnstahl, but not the Sonnstahl. But in game, it does exactly the same thing.
Cool. So yeah, pretty solid choice.
Still nice.
Did many people run that in 1.3?
I know
you did for a while.
The big build was the Knight Commander. So you'd give the Knight Commander the Sonnstahl, the Lucky Shield, the Potion of Swiftness, and either the 6-up ward or the reroll 1 failed armor save. And it made him pretty killy against the right things, but again quite brittle because he's really relying on his armor. So it's good fun to play with, but it's not, meta breaking, to use that word.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the first brand new weapon enchantment is called Death Warrant. A hand weapon enchantment. Attacks made with the weapon gain battle focus. So battle focus is when you roll 6s to hit, produce one additional hit.
Yep.
So pretty awesome. If a hit is scored with the weapon against an enemy unit, friendly models with parent unit or support unit also gain battle focus when attacking the same target in the same phase. So if you've basically got a big clusterfuck going on with multiple units attacking the same thing, that's potentially pretty scary.
I think this is massive. I think that out of all the items, this is the biggest, because it's 55 points. It's a hand weapon enchantment. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you put this on a marshal who's initiative 5. So he's going to be striking before all your normal dudes. He's going to get hit off. It's even more likely he's going to get hit off with hatred, and then he's given the unit he's in and any other units hitting into it the battle focus. Yeah. The possibilities with this and just a huge unit spear is insane. You put a prelate and a marshal in there with this, then you're rerolling to hit. 6s are getting extra hits. You could just, if you roll fairly decent, you could get bananas amounts of attacks in.
Yeah, because, you're only having to score a successful hit. You're not even having to wound.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
It's really, really good, and it synergizes really well with hatred. To get the most out of it, you need to hit before the unit. And because it's a hand weapon, that's not really going to be a problem. I mean, I don't think it... I'm guessing so.
If it's on a character, I dare say he's going to go before the unit.
Yeah. I mean, the prelate is agility 4, so he would still go before heavy infantry. However, he would go at the same time as Imperial Guard with sword and shield, so I don't think they would get it because it's the same initiative step. I think they would need to strike before, so it would need to be a marshal for them. But I still think it's crazy good.
If the Imperial Guard have got great weapons, though.
Yeah, that's the way around it.
But I guess there's another thing in the book that might offset that. We'll get to that when that comes up. So the third weapon enchantment is the Hammer of Witches. Again, it's a hand weapon enchantment. The bearer receives attack value 5, and when using the weapon, attacks made also gain battle focus, only against units with the channel special rule. So not quite as good as the previous one.
And they also get magical attacks.
Sorry, yeah, they also get magical attacks.
Yeah, so that's 30 points. That is, the Hammer of Witches before was the hand weapon, which you got lightning reflexes and +1 strength, which was really nice, and it would have been really nice in other armies. The issue in Empire was that it was 60 points, so it was quite expensive, and you were only getting a strength 5 dude, which it was okay. It wasn't great, and for a couple more, 20 points, you could have got the Ogre Sword. So I don't know why you wouldn't just do that.
Yeah, probably just better things there. I don't know. I mean, reading this, I'm not reading that thinking I would definitely take it. However, there's a character in the book that you might want to give it to, which might synergize with one of its own roles.
I mean, yeah, that's totally built for the Inquisitor.
Yeah, I mean, the name is a bit of a giveaway, but...
Yeah, I mean, 30 points. It's
not that bad.
It's cheap. The Inquisitor's main problem has always been that he's only got 2 attacks, which is why you had the Exa Battle build before. So this basically replaces that for half the price. And you're getting the bonuses against magic casters, so it's quite fluffy. The issue is still that if you give it to the Inquisitor, he's still only going to be strength 4. So it's you're really banking on the lethal strikes to wound, and then because then you get the multiple wounds. But still, it's definitely a more viable build now because it's cheaper. But it's still not. You don't build your battle plan around it. It's hilarious if you like.
This is the type of thing I read in the book, and I'm like, how can I spend 4,500 points around this one and make it the floppiest, shittest list possible?
The new, what is it? The new hotness is your go-to tag.
Yeah, the new hotness is gone now because that was a 1.3 build. I have to come up with the new 2.0 new hotness. Okay. I was going to entitle my 2.0 EOS list the new hotness, but I don't think it's as good as the old hotness.
Okay, so it's like middling hotness.
Yeah, it's like kind of temperate hotness. We should probably move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be funny when the Inquisitor like bitch slaps a dragon or something like that.
Oh yeah, when he like rolls his 2 attacks and gets like 2 more attacks and then rolls and wins and gets.
Does what Lorenzo did to me at Midlands, and he fucking rolls 4 lethal strikes and just bleh. See you later.
D3 wins, 12 wins or something ridiculous.
See you later. So yeah, it's nice. It synergizes well with the Inquisitor, but it's not really setting the world on fire.
No, not really. But only 30 points.
Yeah, it's nice to have, and it's another option. And one thing that I'm really against is cutting down on options because they're not seen as, ultra viable or whatever. Yeah. It's still nice, and for fluffy games, like you say, you want the Inquisitor having something called the Hammer of Witches.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's cool.
So, armor enchantments. Do you want to do these?
Yeah. Probably my second favourite item is the new item, or reworked item, is the Imperial Seal, which is our new armour enchantment, which is 90 points and can only be given to models on foot, and it's a plate armour enchantment, and it's essentially the armour of Frederick the Great, because the wearer gains +3 armour, so if you're already in plate armour, that's giving you a 1-up, but, and crucially, you now also get +1 discipline, but the wearer's unit cannot voluntarily flee as a charge reaction. I think this is massive. Because if you give if you give it to a marshal, that's leadership 10. More importantly, if you give it to a prelate, that's leadership 9, which is the big thing.
Before what were you spending 70 points on the crown?
Yeah, so you're having to get the 1-up armor anyway, which was 90 points, and then you're having to spend an additional 70 points to get the crown of autocracy. So now you're basically saving 70 points if you want to make your prelate the general on foot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I was doing towards the end of 1.3, was giving the prelate Armour Frederick the Great and the crown. Because I think you need Leadership 9. Leadership 8 is just not reliable enough. Even Leadership 9 is not reliable, I can attest to that, but it's more reliable. So I think this makes the foot prelate a nice option for general. And it actually makes the foot marshal very nice as well, because Leadership 10 is very, very sexy.
We should say that because it's a plate armor enchantment, obviously now prelates have access to.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, prelates can now get plate armor, which is nice.
It's really good.
Yeah, I think, the voluntary flee, like how many times does... I mean, this is probably going to go in your general. How many times does your general unit normally flee? Probably never, because it's too risky. And
exactly.
he's,
unless he was like maybe mounted and there was like no reason to give your opponent that 11-inch charge on the off chance he wants to make it.
Yeah, and your mounted character can't even get this, and he doesn't need to because he's already got a 1-up. So
exactly. And if you were mounted, chances are you were never going to get caught because as soon as you flee, you're out with their charge range. Yeah. So this is I really like this item.
Yeah, I really like it too.
I was really surprised when I wrote this. I think I did a double take, and I was like, you get +1 discipline as well, like because they've effectively just given you what was 160 points for 90.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And then
it's
obviously
really in keeping with the book as well. Like I don't think it's unreasonable either. I think it's really fluffy and fits the book. I
mean, you can put this on your general on foot, and then also take the Dusk Shield, which is the shield enchantment in the main rulebook. So you give him a shield, you give him the Dusk Shield, which is now 50 points. So that's 140 points for 1-up rerollable Leadership 9 or 10, depending on the character. And you've still got 60 points to spend on a weapon. That's very, very nice.
Watch this, they'll probably change it when the book comes out. It'll be like, oh yeah, we realised that was too cheap. It's actually going to be like 140 points now.
Yeah, I think if it was another army, it would be too cheap. But because if you do that, that's a tank build. Like, he's not going to be able to pump out heart. I mean, marshals and prelates can't really do that anyway. The Knight Commander can barely do that. But I think for Empire, it's very nice because really, 9 out of 10 Empire players just want their characters to survive because they need them for synergies. Like, no one expects your Empire characters to really do much damage. The Inquisitor and the Knight Commander are kind of a little bit more, obviously fighty, but they're still not anything like a Minotaur Lord or anything like that.
No.
So, I mean, a lot of the time you just want that reliability in your characters to survive, and this really, really does that. So it's really nice, really like it. So the next armor enchantment is Caradon's Corsair, which is 50 points, and it's for Knight Commanders and Marshals only, and it's a barding enchantment, which is also very cool.
It's very cool.
It's 1 use only, may be activated at the start of any friendly player turn, and for the duration of the player turn, all friendly models within 6 inches of the bearer must reroll failed charge charge rolls. I like this for 2 reasons. The first being, do you know what a Corsair is?
I want to say it's like the bit that you would put over the armor to make the armor look nice.
It's actually a warhorse. It's a type of warhorse.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shit, wasn't people on KOE asking for special mounts called?
Yeah, well, KOE can suck my balls.
Is that why that sounds so familiar? I'm sure there was another army that was asking for that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that there's like a legendary horse. And obviously, in game, that's really cool. I mean, the obvious, when you're reading that rule, the obvious thing you're thinking is like put them in a knight unit or put them multiple knight units close together and then you're charging, reroll and blah blah blah. Actually, because of the changes to line of sight, I'm now thinking mounted marshal behind infantry, who's got that, and you can
just give everything,
pop that within 6, which is probably going to be your infantry line, or most of your infantry line, and they're now re-rolling charge ranges. Synergize that with the orders, potential.
Does that mean then that you have to also stick him in a unit to protect him from shooting, because he's bigger than everything else?
No, but he's not, because he's standard.
Ah, of course.
So he can see over, because he's cav, because cavalry are tall, but things can't see him.
Right, okay.
Or sorry, things can see him, but they need to be higher up. So like cannons on hills will still see him. But if you're on the same playing field, they won't be able to pick him out.
Okay.
I mean, it's 50 points. It's a nice item, but it's 1 use only. 50 points.
Yeah, you just use it as and when you really need those charges to go off.
I don't know how popular it's going to be, because I think for 50 points there's other things that you would take.
I mean, potentially, if you had a unit, say you're running your Imperial Guard in the centre, and you've kitted it out, that's your hammer.
Yep.
If you give them the Strider banner and he's sitting behind them,
oh yeah, that's sexy. Yeah.
now they're re-rollable Swift Strike.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah. Right up in your face.
Especially now because you can stack banners.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, you could stick the Strider banner. I mean, not you would do this. I mean, this is becoming a bit of a point sink, but you could put the Strider banner on the unit, and if your BSB is part of the same unit, if he's got the speed banner, super speedy. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like I say, I mean, there's plenty of options there.
I mean, yeah. The issue with that is that it's so fast that it would go charging off the field, and then your marshals sitting there wondering where everyone went. And
Well, I mean, he's on a horse. He can catch up.
run away. Yeah, no, it's cool. I don't know how often we'll see it, but it's definitely a lot more feasible than the Stallion banner, which it's replaced. Because the Stallion banner was, 30 points, only mounted characters. And it wasn't even that good, because it was within 12 inches, and they reroll ones for charge, pursuit, and overrun. So it's obviously smaller, but better effect.
I mean, for Cav, it's really good. But even if you're running an infantry heavy list, just getting that extra level of insurance.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If you need a 7 or an 8, you're like, that's kind of risky, but I've got a reroll. So that becomes a lot more doable then.
Yeah, and so much
I think it's really good.
Yeah, so much of heavy cavalry's game is dependent on that first charge. Because normally, I mean, if you know what you're doing with your heavy cav, like they're only charging things that they will kill in one turn, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So, and once you get past that unit, then you're in the back lines. Not most of the time, anyway. So it's really just that first charge that's super important to make sure that you get in behind, and then after that, the opponent has to react. So there's a lot more things going in your favour. So I think if you were taking a kind of hard hitting knight unit with a character in it, it's a shout. I think it's probably too expensive. I think 50 points is too expensive for what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it's the difference between getting a charge off and not, and winning a combat. I mean, you're getting the extra initiative now, or the extra agility when you charge. So I don't know. I see what you mean. 50 points. The other thing to point out is it's a barring enchantment.
It is, yeah. So it's not eating into your armor or shield enchantments.
Exactly. So this can stack with a plate armor enchantment or a shield enchantment.
Yeah, or all three, because I don't think you're limited for your armor. I think it's just you're only limited to how many armor pieces you've got.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it is nice.
The good thing about this as well is if you're running an EOS character on a horse, chances are if you give him a shield, he's going to get a 1-up anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't really need that extra point investment to get him to a 1-up.
Yeah, sure.
So you've got those points left to give him things like this, which is really nice.
And I think it does that kind of the mounted prelate at the back. That's something I always wanted to try in 1.3. I think I did try it once actually, and it didn't work at all. Because I think it looks really cool on the table, having just like your characters riding about behind your infantry, like giving orders and things. The issue was that they just got targeted, because you will roll ones eventually, or you will take a cannonball to the face eventually. So with the changes to line of sight, and this giving a nice kind of area buff, it's nice. I think I don't think it's going to be, the thing to do with the army, but I'll probably give it a shot. I think it'd be quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's worth a go.
Yeah. So the next one is Black Steel, which is the new name given to the Black Helm. Except from it's not a helm anymore, because helms have been removed. So it's 45 points, so a bit more expensive. It's a plate armor enchantment. It gives you +1 armor and fear, so just like it did before. But if you're on foot, you get an additional +1 armor.
So it's really good.
So it's really
again,
good.
A marshal on foot with a shield with this is at a 1-up.
Yeah. Again, I think this is a nice buff, because it kind of encourages you to take foot characters, which again keeps Empire away from the KOE ground of Cavalists. I know there's Empire guys out there that play Cavalists, and I know they'll probably be hit more than others by the changes to the book, but I think it's nice.
You trying to talk about yourself in the third person?
Well, I didn't really. We'll get to Knightly Orders, but I never played all Cav Empire.
You really wanted to though, didn't you?
If I had enough knights, I would. I love knights. Like proper knights though, not KOE knights. This is something that Ed doesn't get. Like KOE knights are just meh. It's Empire knights, that's where it's at. Not anymore, but it used to be. So yeah, it's still really nice. It's still good on mounted characters, because fear is just an awesome rule to have.
Especially in your army, which is susceptible to stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, given a foot prelate, foot prelate or a marshal, this gives them a 2-up armor and fear. And then they take a shield, then they're at 1-up. So there's a lot more like easy ways to get to a 1-up on foot which is really nice for the army, because again, it goes back to that thing about keeping your characters alive. So the next one is the Witchfire Guard, which is 45 points, and it's a shield enchantment. Bearer gains Aegis 5+ against magical attacks, and miscasts suffered by enemy units within 12 inches of the bearer gain a +1 miscast modifier. What's your thoughts on that one?
It's not earth-shattering. I mean, the +1 miscast modifier is potentially quite hilarious.
Yeah.
To really piss off your opponent, but it's quite situational. Against magical attacks, I don't know. And
it's only the bearer. It's not the bearer as a niche unit.
Yeah. I guess if you've got maybe something mounted, it's maybe a better target for spells. It's quite nice, because you're basically giving them a 5-up ward, and it's a shield enchantment, so you're not eating into your artifacts points and stuff, so that's alright.
I mean, I guess you could do some janky things, like put him on a Pegasus or a Griffin, and have him flying about, protects him from magic missiles a little bit, although he's probably going to have a 4-up ward or 4-up region anyway. And then you can kind of hover about wizard bunkers, just waiting for them to miscast, but I don't think that's a very effective way of using the points.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to get taken. I think it's too expensive. I don't think it's going to get taken. Enough.
It's definitely not an item that jumps out the page. It maybe be something that reveals itself to be amazing when it's actually getting tested, depending on how much magic there is flying around. It's nice, but again, I don't think it's going to be the most popular of choices.
I think it either needs a better effect or needs to be a lot cheaper, because just now it's not doing anything.
Yeah, maybe if it was like 30 points.
Even that, I'm not taking it for 30 points. It would need to be like 10 points for me to take it.
Not on a solo character flying around?
No, because if you do that, you're going to give them a better ward save or special save anyway.
I guess it depends. I mean, it depends on what you want the character to do, I suppose.
I think it would be really funny to put him on the Pegasus and just fuck with wizards. But I don't think that's effective use, but, you know.
No, it's not
whatever.
Really.
If that's how you get your shits and giggles, do it. But the last armor enchantment is the Shield of Voland, goddammit, no M. It's 30 points, it's a shield enchantment. While using the shield, attacks against the bearer with lethal strike and or battle focus lose these attack attributes. So it's basically the same as it was with the addition of battle focus. It's the same points, I think. Oh no, it was 35 for the plate armor of Voland. So it's 30, so it's a little bit cheaper. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, sticking it on something that's mounted, you don't have to worry about lethal strike. That's nice.
I mean, spears don't get lethal strike against Cav anymore.
But just like, elite troops that maybe have it included as a base rule.
Elves and shit. You maybe put it on a challenge denier character. Mm-hmm. That could maybe work, but...
Yeah, kind of similar to before. I don't think it's going to be the kind of default choice.
No.
Depending on what build you've got and how you want to use the character, maybe it's going to be more useful. And everyone's kind of meta's different. If you're running into a lot of stuff with these base rules, then it's going to be useful. It's only 30 points. It's not that much.
Yeah.
You're obviously not getting the additional armor save that you were before, because before it was plate, but more characters in the book can take plate anyway.
That was it. Because before it was popular with prelates, just so the prelates could get plate armor.
Exactly.
Whereas now you're not really getting that. It's 5 points cheaper, but yeah. I think you might be able to do something like a challenge denier, or a dual denier, as it's now known. But it doesn't scream take me. And I think stuff like the Imperial Seal and the Black Steel are just, far superior armor choices.
Yeah, I guess if you don't have the points for a special save, and you're purely relying on armor, then being impervious to lethal strike's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like you say, you're not necessarily going to come up with a lot of models that have it, but knowing your luck, you do. And it's what fucking kills your general or whoever it is riding about on a horse, because, they roll 3 6s and you're dead.
Like you say, it depends on the kind of the armies that you're coming up against in your local area. Because, vampires, for example, have got access to a lot of lethal strike in their book. So if you're coming up against vampires a lot of the time, that's maybe something that you want to take. Whereas if you're coming up against, I don't know, Sylvan Elves don't really have lethal strike, so a little less intimidating.
Yep.
So yeah, cool. Right, artifacts.
So, artifacts, I'll do these. So first one, Winter Cloak for 90 points. Better gains distracting, Aegis 5-up, and fireproof. Basically the same as it was before.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper, because it was 100 points before.
Okay, that's good.
I like it. I mean, it's still, the issue is that it's so expensive that you could just get or in the past you could just get a ward save. Just now, I'm just trying to find out how much the, special saves are.
Like the talismans?
Yeah.
Talismans are about the same.
Yeah, so you can't get the 4-up ward anymore, or the 4-up Aegis. The best you can get is a 5-up, and that's 50 points.
Yeah,
so
which is about the same.
Yeah, I mean,
so really, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
because
it's actually pretty good now.
On a guy on a horse, you're going to be at a 1-up.
Yeah.
Between barding and plate and shield, points protection. You're now -1 to be hit, and you're getting the 5-up included, which that in and of itself is very good. And fireproof, situational, but if there's a lot of pyromancy flying around, pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean,
again, for a solo character that can be targeted with magic, that's nice insurance.
You can get, for armor enchantments in the main book, there's the living plates, which are 90 points, and that's regen 4+ and +1 armor, and that's the same cost. So actually, yeah, I think the main issue with it before was that why not just get the 4-up ward, whereas now, because that's not on the table anymore. Yeah, no, thinking about it, that's going to see more action now.
Yeah.
Especially on your Griffin Lords. Cool, yeah, cool. That's cool.
Distracting's a really nice role.
It is, and it's a big deal for weapon skill 5 especially, because if you go up against super killy stuff, it's hitting you on 3s, it's back up to 4s, so...
Yeah. Or even being hit on 3s rather than 2s is nice.
Yeah.
If you're going up against, like, Chaos Lords and stuff.
Yeah. Warriors of Dark Gods, Paul. Jesus.
Yeah, whatever. Next item is the Lock Up Sooner.
Yep.
Which
is exactly the same
as it was. Is it the same points?
Yep, 70 points. Yeah, same.
So, quite nice. It's kind of like the EOS version of the Orc and Goblin item.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing now is that I think you can customize your characters a bit more to make them, those dual deniers. So,
yeah.
It's okay. I mean, again, it's a bit situational because there's always the issue that you challenge and they just feed you a champion and you don't really get the most out of it, but there's certainly ways around that. I know that there's guys in the forum that use the locket all the time, so I don't think it needed changed. I thought it was a good price for what it was.
I mean, it's not the cheapest thing in the world.
It's not, no.
So I guess for a lot of people, they would rather spend the extra 10, 20 points and just make the person a tank.
Yep.
I would be inclined to agree with the latter and not bother with this because, like you say, it's somewhat situational.
Yeah, and it's harder for us to be killy, but...
Yeah. Next item is Exemplar's Flame, which is wizards only. It's a dominant item. You can choose a single parent unit after spell selection, so pretty much the beginning of the game. At the start of any friendly melee phase, if the bearer is in 18 inches of the chosen unit, the controlling player may choose to discard a single Veil token from their Veil token pool to grant all rank and file models in that unit lethal strike and magical attacks until the end of the phase. So you basically select the unit, beginning of the game. If your wizard is within 18 inches, you can give that unit lethal strike and magical attacks. What do you think?
The fact that it's wizards only, dominant and 60 points is a big limiter on it. But I think, it needs a big limiter because it's a good item. I'm not a huge fan of it because I think it encourages players to take the Imperial Guard Death Star kind of thing with all your characters in there and all the buffs and all the banners and stuff like that. And I don't think that's really a way that Empire should play. Whereas,
no, because it's like you said earlier, it's an army that relies on your characters. If you stick them all in one place, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean it's still risky because Imperial Guard, they're good, but they're not, they're not earth-shattering. So
no, they're not Swordmasters or Chosen or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're still good for what they are, but yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I might be wrong.
I don't really like it, to be honest. I think you need to throw this on a big unit, so you're increasing your probability of rolling with 6s. If you need lethal strike to win that combat, I don't think you're going to win the combat in the first place. In which case, they shouldn't be in there. So I don't really like it. I don't think I would ever take it. I think because it's dominant as well. I think because you're limited to that one unit as well. Yeah, I mean, if you were putting your wizard in a bunker behind, like your infantry line, then I think it would get taken. But because it's dominant, I think almost everyone's going to take the Tome of Arcane Power, or whatever it's called now. What's that one? So the book's been removed. Oh, is this the buff to cast? It's the new book, yeah, where you get +1 to cast, and I think that's going to be massive now.
especially because you don't get your pluses if like only wizards get their wizard masters, get their pluses. So I think most people will take that, and even stuff like your special save, so your 5-up is a talisman. So
yeah, I don't really like this. I think there's better stuff you can take. I
think if you take this, you're taking it for a game plan, and that game plan is probably Imperial Guard Death Star. So I don't know. I probably try it out because I think it is quite cool, but I don't think it's going to be massive.
Okay.
And like I say, I don't like the Death Star thing anyway. So next one.
Mantle of Galore, 35 points. Enemy units within 6 inches of the bearer do not gain +1 agility for charging momentum. This is nice.
This is awesome.
I like this.
Yeah.
Big spear block.
Exactly. I think, if you take this, it's for the spears. Big old unit of spear. They're getting the +2 if they get charged, and your opponent isn't getting the +1. That probably means you're striking before a lot of elves, which is really nice. So I would imagine there's going to be a lot of these on BSBs or prelates and spear units. Very nice. And 35 points is cheap,
are quickly becoming the default weapon choice.
Yeah, they already were. But I think even because of that +2 if they get charged, especially for Empire, because it's very rarely that you want your heavy infantry to go in the offensive. Most of the time you want them to hold back. So you're actually okay with them getting charged a lot of the time. And now you actually want them to get charged.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if I'm running a heavily mounted Wars of the Dark Gods army, and you're running a wall of spears, and you've got shit like this on characters, that's not nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be really difficult for me to get into a favourable combat.
And it's units within 6 as well. It's not just the unit. I think I can imagine that getting changed, actually. I can foresee that getting changed to just the unit.
I guess it depends, because it's on a character, where that character is in the unit. If people are running this with a character, do you put that character towards the end, on the corner then? Because if he's in the middle, then you're kind of denying yourself range on that ability.
Unless you go bus.
Oh yeah, I suppose if you're in bus, I was thinking if they were in Horde, but then I guess you don't really need to go.
I don't know, I don't know if heavy infantry are really going to be in Horde anymore, or line, because you don't get the rank bonuses. So
okay.
And there's banners now in the main book that give you more static combat res. So I think that plays into...
And they stack, right?
Yeah, so you can take multiples, so yeah. I think heavy infantry will remain fond friends with static combat res. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Talking of banners. Banner enchantments. So I'll do these.
Okay.
So the Household Standards is the first of the new banners. This is really cool. If the general is part of the bearer's unit, its commanding presence range and the range within which it can issue orders are both increased by 6 inches. This is really cool.
It's really good.
It's really Empire-y. I really like it.
Yeah. A big complaint on the forums has always been that the bubbles that we have to operate in are too small. A lot of the time they're 6 or 12. And even the 12 inch is obviously a lot better, but even 12, you're very limited as to what you can do. Whereas now, Command and Presence is the new Inspiring Presence. So that's your general. So you pop this on your general's unit, he's got 18 inch Inspiring Presence.
Yeah, and I think other armies could do that in 1.3. I think it makes sense that this armies can do it. So it ties in really nice with the kind of aesthetic.
I don't know how you want to play this, but you could even do it having a cavalry unit at the back, having your mounted marshal, again, just like a buff marshal, just riding about at the back, given his bubble. Or you could actually just have a command unit that sits behind your main battle line. I don't know, maybe that's the thing. Maybe you just do what we've always done, just put them in the front unit, but I like it. It's really good.
Either way, even having it on a character or in a unit with your character that's actually riding around the battlefield. 18 inches is
it's big.
Really nice.
That was always a big reason to take the Griffin, was just for the 18 inches, because it helps a lot. And because you don't need line of sight for orders, you can sit at the back if you want and still give out the orders. So it's really good. It's 50 points, so it is basically a standard units allowance, but I think that's a fair price for what it is.
Yeah, that's a steal. Considering before, the most expensive kind of 50-point banners for core units at least were the speed banner, which was 50 points.
Yeah.
This is much better than a speed banner.
You obviously put it on your command unit or your unit with your general, but I think that I really like it. The 18-inch orders and Inspiring Presence is really nice.
The next banner is Banner of Unity.
So it's 35 points.
35 points. Yeah. This is parent units only. So there is a limitation here. Old name, new rule.
Yep.
Whenever the bearer's unit is targeted by an order, an additional order can be given for free to a single support unit within 6 inches of the bearer's unit. So on a unit with like a great tactician kicking about,
Yep.
being able to dish out free orders, really nice.
I think this banner is nice because it feeds in well with the household standard, and it also feeds in with, just orders generally, and especially the new support bit where your support units automatically get fighting extra rank.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time your orders were going on fighting extra rank for your support units, or the discipline one. So I think this gives you a lot more flexibility in the orders, and it gives you a lot extra order movement. The poor way to phrase it. Like, more flexibility in the orders that you give out.
So great tacticians before, they could issue a maximum of 2 orders, is that right?
Yes.
So with this, you could have big block in the middle, 2 support units on either side, and he's able to give orders to each of those units.
Yeah.
So you could be given accurate to your firing squads on either side of your Imperial Guard, or if you're running like multiple units of Horde guys, you could be given additional fighting extra rank, or additional, like if your army's falling apart and you've got multiple units fleeing, then you can give out multiple steady men's in one phase. So it's really cool. It's really nice. I think, we're building up a really clear picture of the degree to which the new book is really going to be based on these synergies, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
There's lots of different options, and they all seem very good.
I mean, a big issue with the 1.3 was that the army, was still built in synergies. It still needed those things to work for it to do well. But a lot of the time, because you were limited to the bubble you had to operate in and the reliability of those things, it often fell apart quite easily. Whereas now, because you're getting, more discipline, bigger bubbles, more orders, better support units, I think basic Empire play will be, that will receive a big buff.
Yeah.
And then the next 3 banners nice as well.
Only 10 points, the Marksman's Pennant, so another new banner. Bearer's unit does not suffer the -1 to hit penalty for stand and shoot charge reactions.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's nice, yeah. So you obviously you just pop that on a big unit of light infantry that's on one of your flanks. Makes them a bit more reliable and shooting stuff coming in. I mean, you can't double this one up, so you can only take one of these. I think it would be nice if you could double up, but I can understand why at 10 points they're not doing that, because I think everyone would do that.
Yeah, you would just stick them on all your support units.
Yeah.
Handgunners.
And just say, come on at me, because I'll shoot you to shit.
I'm going to shoot you with accurate, and then I'm not going to take the -1 to hit you for standing shit.
I mean, this all plays into kind of general fear that I've got for the army, but we'll probably talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
But it's nice, 10 points. I think a general feeling on the forum was that we would have liked more banners, because it's quite fluffy and it fits in well. I mean, all 3 of those banners are really good, and all 3 of those banners will be taken, which is really good. I would maybe have liked another 1 or 2 just for fluff reasons, but I think overall our special items are now very nice, and there's, like we say, there's only a couple that we can't really see much of a use for.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I think it would have been nice if there was a couple more banners, but on the whole, there are more magical items. The vast majority of them seem not only useful, but very good. I think a lot of armies would like to have this kind of stuff, and it's all very fluffy.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So I think a lot of people are going to be happy with this for different reasons.
Yeah, so. I agree. Right, well, we're getting to the meat and bones.
Yes.
Right. So, characters are first up. So, our army organisation has stayed the same. So, max 40% characters, at least 25% core, no limit on our special, 35% for Imperial auxiliaries, max 20% for Imperial armory, and max 30% for Sunna's Fury. So, exactly the same as what it was. And our first character, as always, is the Marshal, who is the same points cost. He's still 160. Same stats, so it's now Advance 4, March 8, Discipline 9, 3 health points, 5 defensive skill, 4 resilience, standard 4 up armor save because of the plate armor, 3 attacks, 5 offensive skill, 4 strength, 1 AP, and 5 agility. So exactly the same as he was before. We've retained the ability to get a free standard bearer, which is, that's a big thing for Empire. So I'm glad we kept that. I know a lot of armies are very envious of that. So yeah, you've still got that. Magical equipment, you can take up to 200 points worth if you are not the BSB, 100 if you are. One thing I've really liked throughout the entire book is that they've made all points that I've seen 0s or 5s. So a shield is now 5 points where it used to be 6. So that means that my wargaming OCD is sated. Because it's so annoying when you get like 4,491 points and you can't find anything to fill the gap.
Yeah. Or even 10 points. Because before there was really only maybe one or two like items, maybe like a banner or like a magical piece of equipment that was maybe 10 points. So now this is the difference between taking a shield, not taking a shield, maybe a slightly better weapon if you didn't have quite the points for it before. So yeah it's good.
So the shield's 5. The melee weapons he has are paired weapons, great weapon, halberd, lance, and it's 5 for paired, 10 for great, 10 for halberd, 10 for lance. You can take a pistol where he's hitting on a 2+ normally for 5 points, which is nice because it used to be 12, so it used to be quite pricey, whereas now it's a nice little addition that you can throw on him. Great Tactician has gone down from 60 points to 55. And Imperial Prince has gone down from 180 to 175. So 5 points reductions on both of those. They both do exactly the same thing. So for Great Tactician, you can only take 1 per army, but you can give out 2 orders. And for the Imperial Prince, you get the +1 attack, you get the Light of the Sonnstahl, an extra 50 points equipment, and you can also take the Dragon, which is now 475 points as opposed to 520. So he's a bit cheaper as well. The mounts, I think this is quite a big change actually, and I think it's something that's maybe flown under the radar. So a horse is now 70 points, but that includes his Barden, which isn't a big deal for the Marshal, but it's a big deal for the Prelate, because the Prelate's horse used to be super expensive. It used to be 90 points for the horse, so now it's just 70, and it's 70 for the Prelate as well. The Pegasus is 90 points, and the Great Griffin is 200. So both of those have seen price reductions. The Pegasus used to be 140, so that's a 50 point reduction, which is pretty big. And the Great Griffin's dropped 20 points.
Cool.
So he's largely stayed the same with little points drops here and there. I would have liked to see the Great Griffin probably be a little bit more cheaper, because I still think 200 is probably a little bit too much for him.
Just looking at
He's stayed the exact same as he was.
Yeah. He's still good in combat.
He's still good, but it's the not giving anything to your armour.
Yeah, I don't get that. I think that's just a general thing. There's other armies, they have that problem as well. Like I know in the Warriors book, if you take a Manticore, that doesn't give you any additional armour.
Yeah.
Which I don't really understand when there's other mounts in books which are smaller, and yet they're given +2 to armour, and yet it's a massive thing.
I think it's to stop these like super mobile killy characters. But especially for like us, so Empire, that's not really what we were using the Griffin for. We're using it for the Tower and Presence bubble, and it to be like a nice little, countercharger into stuff, or War Machine Hunter or whatever in the later stages of the game. But, I understand why it is what it is. 200 points is still okay for it. I just don't think, it's not a good deal, I don't think. So I don't think you'll see it. The 90 points for the Pegasus though, potentially we could see a return of the old 8th edition Captain on Pegasus riding about the place. So it'll be interesting to see if folk take that up.
Is that just because it's cheaper now?
Yeah, so 90 points. I mean, that's a big points drop. 50 points. So, 160, even if you just give him a lance. So, say you give him a lance and shield. So it's 175, it's 105, 255, is that right? So, yeah, that's alright for a mobile War Machine Hunter.
See, resilience 4?
Yeah. I don't think the Pegasus gives you any. Let me see.
It gives you mounts protection 1.
Oh, it does. Okay, so you could get a 2-up armor.
Yep.
Actually, you could take items, which if you wanted to make them more expensive, but I would probably try and keep them as cheap and cheerful as you can. So yeah, I mean, it's still. I don't know. It'd be cool if you see a return of the Pegasus Captain, or Pegasus Marshal.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit off air. Just the magic resistance might have been a nice addition for the Pegasus, kind of similar to what they've got for the Unicorn.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, if he'd stayed the same and magic resistance, he'd gotten some magic resistance. I think he would definitely be within a shout of seeing him. But
especially if you give him that shield, it gives him the ward save against magical attacks.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't scream take me. I think it would be cool to see some Pegasus Marshals flying about the place. And against some lists, they're good. Against others, they're terrible because they can't really do anything. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But overall, still solid, does what he does. He's not going to kill things outright, but he's not really there to do that. He's there for his buffs and stuff like that, so
yep.
All good.
So next character is the Knight Commander.
Sure is. Do you want to take this one?
200 points. He is discipline 9 now. Was he 8 before?
No, he's always been 9.
It's always been 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why that's blue on our copy.
They're just toying with us. They're just pretending that's a change, and it actually isn't.
Trying to catch me off guard.
So he's, I dare say the rest of his stats are what they were before.
He's exactly
3 health
the same
points,
as he was.
Offensive skill 6, so better than the Marshal. Still resistance 4. He's coming with 2 up armor, because of the plate armor, barding, and mounts protection. Regular horse, strength 4, AP 1, agility 6, 4 attacks. He has a new rule, though. Well, an adjusted rule called First Knight, which is universal. When the model is joined to a unit of knightly orders, the unit gains Fearless. And if the model is the general, the unit also gains Parent Unit.
Yeah.
Which potentially could lead to some shenanigans.
Yeah, when this was announced on the forum, it kind of got a bit lukewarm response. There were some guys that were like really excited about this. You know, the idea of basically putting light infantry wings on either side of your cav bus, and it forces your opponent to make those kind of longer charges, or at least weather firing to get into charge range, at which point he's probably in charge range of you, which is nice, but I'm not convinced that, because knightly orders now have been removed from the book and they're now the upgrade for electoral cav, I'm not convinced that knight units will have the punch to really take advantage of that. But because they are parent units, you can give them orders, so you can do some knight stuff like fight an extra rank. Could potentially be very nice on them.
Yep, and they also gain Fearless as well, which is nice.
That was always a huge issue with knightly orders, as they were.
I think that was your main issue.
That was my main. I mean, I love knightly orders, but they really suffered from not having immunity psychology anymore. They were just, I mean, they're really designed to take out hard-hitting stuff in monsters. You know, just pumping out strength 6 hits on the charge, but the amount of times that you charge in, you're -1 for the fear, so you're down at leadership 7 if you don't have any characters in there. Even if you've got a character, you're probably down at 7 or 8. And then that's like a 50-50 chance you fail that fear test and you do fuck all to wherever you're hitting. So that's a really nice addition. I'm just not convinced that the cav units are really going to be able to take advantage of the parent mechanic. But the Fearless is nice.
Yeah, I could understand it more if you could use like 5-man units of just the regular core guys as support units.
Yeah, for counter charges.
That might be pretty tasty, but
I think that there's a risk then that it becomes too good.
Which is probably why they didn't go down that road.
But yeah, the Knight Commander, I mean, he got a slight price drop as well. He's 10 points cheaper.
Yeah, and he is like a little bit more killy than the Marshal.
Yeah.
And he's getting a horse as well, so you're not paying for that.
Yeah. So he's he can take 200 points, shield for 5, lance for 20, cavalry pick for 10, halberd for 15, great weapon for 15, and he can replace his horse with a young griffin for 20 points, so 10 points cheaper. So yeah, he's still the closest thing to a fighting character we've got. I mean, just looking at him, I'm still thinking Sonnstahl. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to try out that first night rule. I'm not convinced it's going to work, but it could be very nice. Felix is quite... I was talking to Felix this morning, and he seems quite optimistic about it. He likes this idea of a big cavalry bus fighting an extra rank.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the list I came up with, I had a block of knights with this guy in there. The intention would be that you're buffing it with magic, and you're using it to grind stuff down. So kind of similar to, like, if you can get them to strength 5, because they're AP3, the upgraded knights, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's the strength 5 that you would need.
Yeah, because strength 4 is not enough. Yeah.
No, you need the strength 5. Potentially, I'm sure there are builds that can make it work, but it's a heavy points investment, and it's a...
Yeah, that's it. At what point do you just say to yourself, no, I'm just going to get Imperial Guard to do the same job?
Yeah. So it's, if you really like running knights, if you want a fast list, then possibly. But again, I suppose with most Empire lists, you are relying on some sort of buff going off. So
it's kind of our thing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think it's quite as risky as it was. Well, not necessarily as risky. I think it's the same amount of investment as it was before to make it work. But as you say, you don't have core knights as their own entity now, and special knights. It's kind of all been rolled into one. So
yeah, so it's all core now.
Yeah.
So next up is the prelate. He's essentially stayed exactly the same as he was. He's retained Channel 1, which is nice now, especially given the Veil tokens.
Yep.
He's still got divine attacks. The big thing is that you can take plate armor for an extra 20 points. You can take a horse for 70, so that's 20 points off. So that's a barded horse, 20 points off. 1.3 taking a horse pardon, which is nice. And the altar battles remained at 400 points. So, I mean, the altar battle is exactly the same as it was, I believe. I'll just double check. Yes. You can't take Barding on it anymore, but you would just take plate armor. But apart from that, it's exactly the same. So it's still... Some people really like the altar. I've never really seen the appeal. I think it's too expensive. But I know Michael likes it, so...
Yeah, I like the idea of a guy running around on like a pimp wagon, dishing out bubble hatred.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, we were saying that you can't get a 4-up ward through talismans. This still gives you the 4-up Aegis save.
Yeah, so you could make you can easily get to 1-up, 4-up.
Yeah.
Which is now quite rare. So.
And it's resilience 5 HP points, so potentially tanky against the right things. Again, it depends on how you want to run the list.
Exactly.
It's a lot. 400 points, that's a lot.
I think the bubble blessing is nowhere near as effective as it was, because just, I think...
How bound spells work.
Bound spells work, because you still would need to take a wizard to kind of give that double threat, and I think that's when it starts getting very expensive, if you take the altar. But for guys that like the altar, it's still, viable. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone comes up with anything particularly tasty, but on the face of it, the prelate stayed exactly as he was, which is good. Because at 160 points, I know a lot of people just take him for the hatred. And he's still worth it, 160 points for the hatred. Now you can give him, 185 and give him a 3-up armor save, which is nice. So yeah, I think the plate armor is the big thing, and that was much needed. It didn't make any sense that you couldn't do it. So yeah, I like a lot.
Cool. So moving on, wizards. So base wizard, 125 points. He stat-wise hasn't changed, I don't believe.
Nope, exactly the same. So
this is obviously for
shit.
So this is obviously for the wizard apprentice we're talking about.
Yeah.
He can become a wizard adept for 75, or he can become the big granddaddy wizard master for 225. So it's a big jump.
It's a big jump.
If he does go wizard master, you can increase your points for magical items to 200, so it comes at 100 standard. He can get access to light armor now, which is nice. So now you can actually bring armor enchantments.
Yeah, which is a big thing.
Yeah, it's really good. And he still has access to Horse, Pegasus, Great Griffin, and the Arcane Engine for... I don't know if these points are any different. Andrew, do you know if these are any different?
So...
I guess the Horses is coming from Barding again, so that's...
So yeah, that's a big
good.
thing. It's so it was 20 points before, but now you're obviously getting Barding. The Pegasus was 80 before, it's 80 now. The big thing is that he doesn't need to be a Wizard Master to take the Pegasus, which is quite nice. I can definitely see wizards floating about on Pegasus. The Great Griffin was 165, so 15 points off there. And the Arcane Engine, I think this is the biggest one. So it was already cheaper to put your wizard on an Arcane Engine, because the Arcane Engine was 280 points, I think, before. And it was 245 to take it as a mount for the wizard. Now it's 220, so that's even cheaper, which is nice. Especially now, because, and I'm reliably informed by Felix who's worked this out, you can now take a 3-up, 4-up wizard on the Arcane Engine, because you give him the regen armor.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Arcane Engine is giving you mounts protection too.
Yeah, so light armor, so the regen armor gives you +1, so that would put you 5 up, 3 up, and then 4 up, that works, which is cool.
And he's resilience 5 when he's on there, 5 HP.
Yeah.
So, tanky.
He is tanky. I mean, a complete catapult magnet and bolt thrower magnet and cannon magnet, but it's nice to have a very tanky wizard, and because you don't need your highest leadership character to be your general anymore, there is definitely potential to make him that. I don't know why you would, because he's only discipline 7, but it's an option.
Yeah.
As for the magic, I think it's hard to say what the best way to go on this is. I think people need to really sit down and work out the spells they want and the best ways to take them. I mean, I've been thinking Wizard Master, but that really becomes very expensive very quickly, especially if you put him on the altar, and that's a massive point drop if he gets plinked by a cannon. So it might be better to take maybe just an adept. Yeah.
A couple of spells and a hereditary.
Yeah, I think people just need to sit down and work out what spells they want and how to get them.
Yeah, because, I mean, for all that we're saying, there's probably more limitations now with the bound spells. You still have access to them. You've still got the prayers. There's a couple of really nice bound spells included in the new rulebook, just as general items that are open to everybody.
Yes, yeah.
And you've still got the bound items on the Arcane Engine as well. So there are other options in the book if you do want to go Magic Light. But as you say, with the changes to Magic, it's probably going to be harder to get things off with bound spells, especially with the likelihood of other armies running proper wizards. So,
yeah.
But it's good. I mean, you've got good bound spells in the book and 4 solid lores to choose from.
That's it. I think it's the synergy. I think bound spells now really work when you've got a wizard, whereas before you didn't really need the wizard, and a lot of the time it was more reliable just to go all bound. So yeah, I think it's going to be cool to test this out. I'm cautious to say anything because I think a lot of this will just be testing it out and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yep.
But I'm very optimistic, and I definitely think wizards are now an auto-include for Empire. I think
they should be. I think with how the army is designed to work, the idea that you've got someone there to actually boost stats through magic is really cool.
I think you should always be able to not take a wizard and just do the kind of holy army idea of taking lots of prelates, because I think from a fluff perspective it's really important to keep that going. Like talking to Ed, I know a big part of the Empire fluff is like this potential of civil war that's breaking out, so that holy element is very important in that. I'm going to try it out, I'm going to see how feasible it is, but on paper I think it's all about the wizards now and how the bound spells can help the wizards rather than the bound spells just going it alone.
Cool. So moving on.
Inquisitor
for 150 points.
Yeah, he's basically the same as well. So offensive and defensive skill 5, resilience 4, 3 health points, just heavy armor, but he had that before. He's got Witch Hunter, Lethal Strike, multiple wounds D3. So basically exactly what he was before, but 10 points cheaper. He's now also Fearless. So he did have Immune to Psychology, that's now changed to Fearless. He's not a leader, so he can't be your general. And he's got Magic Resistance 2, which is obviously changed now to if he is in a unit, it's 2 points harder to cast magic on that unit.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah, so I can definitely see him pushing his way into army lists now, just for that, really. Because 150 points is pretty reasonable for him. Witch Hunter has changed the special rule, so now attacks allocated on a model that has the challenge rule.
Channel rule.
Channel rule. Reroll fail to wound rolls. Which
is cool, so he's kind of like anti-magic caster type guy.
Yeah, it makes more sense than what it was before about the aura thing. So yeah, he's a proper witch hunter now, where he's going bitch slapping wizards left, right and centre if he gets in combat. I mean, if you get in combat with a wizard or a channel thing, most of the time it's going to go your way. But of course there are certain units now that can channel, like I think Phoenix Guard, I think I read on the forum somewhere. They've got channel, maybe.
Okay.
Not a quote. Don't quote me on that. So stuff like that, that's obviously a hard-hitting elite unit that you can reroll wounds against. So, that's a nice little synergy. Shield for 5, plate armor for 20. You can still take up to 100 points of magical equipment. Paired weapons for 5, great weapon for 10, crossbow hitting on a 3+ for 10. Brace of pistols hitting on 4+ for 10, and he can take a horse and gains light troops for 70. So he's a bit more expensive to go on the horse, but apart from that, everything's basically the same as it was.
I never saw anyone actually run Inquisitors before, I don't think.
Nick tried repeatedly to make it work.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing. I saw him play an Inquisitor once.
Yeah. I think he tried 4 games in a row with him, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah. It's just when you see the D3 wounds, lethal strike, I mean, that just looks amazing.
Yeah. But then you see 2 attacks.
2 attacks, and you're like, meh. But with Hammer of Witches and his new Witch Hunter changes, potentially that's more doable.
Yeah, if only monsters had channel.
Maybe some will.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't say that knowing that any of them do, but I can imagine from a fluff perspective that
some of them do. Yeah.
Maybe in the Demons book.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know, even maybe like, what do the Highborn Elves have? The Phoenixes?
The Phoenix Guard.
But the Phoenixes.
Or Flame Wardens, sorry, that's what they're called.
The actual monsters they have.
Oh, Fire Phoenixes.
Yeah, so they've got the, yeah.
Have they got channel?
Channel.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just mean, like, from a fluff perspective, if I had to guess, I can see a unit like that getting it. It's not to say that they do it, because I've not read the book, but potentially there might be additional units that this guy's actually quite good against that we don't know.
Yeah,
so.
I think he's still very niche.
Oh, definitely is.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's going to get into singles tournament lists, but I think he's still a very cool, fluffy character for stuff like if you're doing narrative games or campaigns. He's still very cool to have.
Yeah, I think he's a luxury. Like, if you've got the points, I don't want to say waste, but if you've got the points to kind of spend on this, because he's 150 points base, right? So if you kit him out with maybe a couple of magical items, plate armor and all the rest of it, you're getting to the 250 point, 300 point, and that's like a marshal.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think your points are going to be spent elsewhere, so if you're taking them for probably more fluffy reasons. Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, if you play like VC every week, you're probably going to want to take this guy to hunt after little level 1 casters to get rid of like their evocation spells and stuff, because they'll all have channels.
Yeah, they do.
So,
and even stuff like if you are playing in a group that magic is super popular, which I think it will be in 2.0. The magic resistance might be nice. I just think that it's nice to have, but it's not essential, and there's other things that are essential which demand your points. So I think he's kind of he's better, slightly better than he was before, because he can get better stuff.
Yeah, but I'm glad they've kept him.
I'm glad. Absolutely.
They've not just rolled him into like an option, so rather than like a prelate doing a certain thing, you can give him a witch hunter upgrade.
Yeah. I still think it was cool in the past how you could choose what order he was. So you could be a vampire hunter, a witch hunter, or a demon hunter.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was cool because you could choose your different things. And I think across the board, the Ninth Age guys have, I think, been somewhat guilty of that. I know they're saying that they're going to add that stuff back in now, which I look forward to. But in terms of this edition, I think he's still caught in the same position he was before, where he's not important enough to warrant selection when your points are pretty tight on characters anyway, a lot of the time. He's cool though. I like the idea of him.
Yeah, definitely. Last character,
Artificer.
125 big ones.
Yeah, so he's 5 points cheaper. He's exactly the same as he was. The order obviously has changed. He's retained that ability, but it's now changed to accurate. He can take up to 50 points of special equipment, which was the same, and all his weapon options have got slightly cheaper. So a handgun's now 5 points, which is a steal. Repeater pistols 10, repeater guns 10, long rifles 15, and he can take a horse for 20, which is 30 points cheaper with Barden. I think that might change, because I can foresee 145 Artificer chaff.
What, just stick him on a horse and like stick him in a unit like...
No,
don't
even stick him in a unit. Just like put him on a horse and use him as chaff. Right, 145 points. That's the dirty side of me that's coming up with that idea. I know it was a fear beforehand, because I can't remember who I was talking to. Was talking about this idea of putting an artificer on a horse and just using him as chaff, and I was like, oh my god, that's so filthy that it kind of turns me on a little.
Even just having him on foot. I mean, like dwarves do that with like their engineers.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. Like, if you've got ambushers pop on behind your war machines and you really need that extra turn shooting, use him as chaff. And he works pretty well for that. I mean, I've chaffed up Gortax and stuff before with him. Just 'cause the model I use for the engineer looks depressed anyway, so I don't feel guilty about it. I think the horse thing will probably change. I think that's too cheap. 145 points for mobile chaff is very nice. I don't know. They might keep it. I've probably given people bad ideas now saying that, but if you want to take him to make your cannon more reliable, he still fills the exact same role for the same price. So yeah, he was never a kind of auto-include, which I don't think anything should be really. But if you're taking war machines or you're taking lots of light infantry now, there's even, probably a bigger reason to take him.
Yeah, probably just for that extra order.
Yeah, so it's nice. Again, the orders, because of those simple tweaks where you get a slightly bigger bubble with the banners and stuff, the orders are kind of becoming more available, more flexible. I think it's a nice thing to have.
I mean, him and a big unit of light infantry, giving them ready aim fire, if they've got the marksman's pennant and you've got artillery nearby.
Sure.
That's alright, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, if you could do, like, I think it was like 4th or 5th edition, like, you used to see all the time, like, the big, long lines of hangars. Mm-hmm. So I could maybe see a return to that. The issue is that they're made out of polystyrene, so if they get shot at or they get catapulted, they will panic and run away if they're not in bubble. But it's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. There's still options there for him. So yeah, and the engineer rules stayed the same. So if he's within 6 inches of the war machine, they can reroll on the misfire, and they can get his to shoot modifier. So it's hitting on a 3+ normally, which is nice, especially for cannons and even volley guns. It's nice.
Yeah.
That's it for the characters, yeah. So the mounts we've kind of gone over. So the horse has got Bardin as just part of his profile, which is really nice. I really like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Pegasus is the same. Young Griffins, God bless them, are still the same. Big Bird is the same. The dragons got a bit cheaper, which is nice. There was an explosion of dragons all over the UK anyway over the last couple of months. I don't know how much of that is just because like the end of 1.3, so everyone wants to take a bit crazy stuff, and the prevalence of the Chris Mint zombie dragon net list. But
yeah, less artillery floating about as well.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. So I don't know. You might see a couple more dragons because there was what was that? That was about 475. Yeah. Yeah, you might do.
What's the profile on these guys? Resilient 6, innate defense 4, 6 wounds.
So he's got 3-up armor, resilient 6. Yeah, he's okay.
No, it will not just be a 4-up because he's a monster.
No, 3-up. It says armor save on his profile, 3-up.
Oh, nice.
It's alright. If you want to take a dragon, take a dragon. The Arcane Engine, we'll probably just leave that now and we'll come back to that.
Yeah, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the auto barrel we've already discussed. It's basically stayed the same. And the unerring strike from divination has remained its bounce spell. It's additional bounce spell rather, and it's a 4/8 power level.
Yeah, like
so
the rest of them.
yeah, so that's like standard. Right,
So
core.
moving on to core.
Yeah,
So still 25%.
still 25. First one is heavy infantry, the good old boys. They're now 10 points cheaper, so they're 150 rather than 160. They're basically the exact same as they were. Where if you take over 21 or over, you're a parent. If you take 20 or under, or you can only take 20. There's support, there's scoring, light armor, shield. The big thing is they get shield standard now.
Yeah, this is nice.
Which is nice. So they come with flat 5-up against shooting. For melee weapons, it's a point extra for a spear, a point extra for a halberd. I think that's really nice. So the swap shield for halberd rules options been removed. I think this is really nice. For a point, I don't think halberds are going to outshine spears, but it's nice to have that option and that they are the same. I think there was a lot of people in the forum that kind of reacted, not negatively, but kind of unimpressed by this. I think it's a really nice little buff. It's kind of a free buff, if that's such a thing. Because the big thing for that,
just with like armor piercing.
Yeah, I mean the big thing for the halberds was just getting them in. Because you don't, I mean, the heavy infantry, they're kind of designed to die. They're not really meant to be doing much. So even that extra pip of armor against shooting is a big deal. Because a lot of stuff in 1.3 was taking away that 6-up armor anyway. Mm-hmm. So you were just losing swathes of halberdiers before they got anywhere near the enemy. I like it. And for a point, I think it still makes halberds an option, which is important. I think spears will still be taken en masse. But maybe for support units, you want to keep your halberds, especially with fighting extra rank, so they're just pumping out, 15 strength 4 attacks, which is quite nice. And it's still 10 points a model. So a little bit cheaper overall, but it's the same for much of them. And obviously they still get champion musician standard bearer, and they can take up to 50 points on their banner. And a big thing actually, so veteran standards aren't a thing anymore.
Nope, so you can have multiples in core now.
Yeah, and you can take multiple banners, which I actually really like. I think that's very cool.
Really cool.
It makes sense in a fantasy game as well.
It's cool for modelling purposes as well, if you want to have actual designated banners, if you go that extra mile.
Like me.
Looks pretty cool if you've got a unit with several banners kicking around. Looks really nice.
Especially
for this army.
Yeah.
With regimental colours and stuff.
I really like when I've got, because I use pikemen for spear, and when I've got the pike unit with the BSB and their standard in it, it just looks really cool on the table. Yeah. Especially when they're in a horde formation or a line formation.
Now potentially you can have 3 banners in a one unit.
It's gonna look really cool. I'm gonna have to buy more banners. I'm gonna have to get my banner guy on the phone.
You're gonna have to make his spear that little bit longer so you can actually get
multiple
more banners.
Oh no. So light infantry next.
Yep, 135 points. About the same, or is that more? Is that less?
5 points cheaper. And there are 13 points for additional model. So that's a point cheaper than it was before.
The fact that they've got now, I would imagine that the vast majority of people are going to run these guys as support units. you might occasionally see the one big mast.
You can only take them as support units.
Oh, right, you can only take them as support units. Right, so, sorry, what I mean is, you might want to run them in larger groups of 20.
Uh-huh.
But I'd imagine most people are going to take them as support, so you're getting that fighting extra rank, shooting in 3 ranks bonus.
I think at least units of 15, if not kind of longer units and getting more shots off.
Yeah, I think the fact that you're getting these rules inbuilt and they got even a point cheaper is really good. I don't think you can really complain.
I mean, the issue with them before was that without that firing extra rank, which is the big, that's their big buff, but without that, they were 140 points. Shooting isn't, super effective in 9th Age. It's nice, but it's not game winning, especially for Empire. So they never really justified their points, especially in comparison to State Militia, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, everywhere just ran the militia instead. And why wouldn't you?
I mean, I held off for ages. Like, I tried to use crossbowmen for ages. But then when I gave in to the State Militia with pistols, like, they're just so much better. Or they were so much better. So yeah, I think light infantry are back because of that, the synergy with the parent unit, which is cool. I like the idea that it's better now to use the Army Special rules. Whereas before, it was kind of an addition, but no one, apart from me, really built their armies around it. Mm-hmm. So I think people will now build armies around it. And I think, importantly, even from kind of fluff gamers to tournament players, you're going to be looking at the parent support units, and that's how you're going to be building your core around anyway.
The downside is, because more people are likely to use that mechanic in the book, you're going to be coming up against more opponents that are aware of it, so you can no longer catch people out when you can, shit.
I mean, at tournament level, most people know. It's quite funny, like, whenever I go to tournaments or whatever, and someone rocks up, that's one of the first questions they ask, like, what does that do again? Like, whereas you can't really...
It's because I've been burned before.
I know, I won't actively tell people what it does, but if they ask me, I'm obviously going to say, well, it does this, you might not want to charge them. But yeah, no, I like it. It's a big buff for the light infantry, and I think they'll definitely be on the table now.
But beyond that, pretty much remain the same.
Yeah, I mean, they can swap out their crossbows for handguns for free. I think it's going to be interesting to see what everyone goes with. There is obviously, do you choose extra range or do you take the extra pip AP? I'm tending towards handguns, but I was talking to a couple of the Scotland guys, and the idea was floated that maybe crossbows are better, or maybe like one of each. I know that Felix has made up a couple lists where he's done some crossbows and some handguns. So yeah, I think that's another thing we'll just need to test and find out. You can take a champion standard musician, and you can obviously now take banner enchantments up to 50 points, which is nice. And they've retained the nice little thing, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone take, but they've retained it anyway, that the champion can replace his weapon with a long rifle or a repeater gun for 5 points.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a nice little fluffy thing.
I'd imagine the main thing with that is just remembering to actually use it if you do spend those 5 points.
Yeah, I mean, they both got cheaper as well.
A lot of the time.
Like, the repeater gun used to be 20 points, and the long rifle used to be 10. So, both little points drops. And this is the thing across the board, because I think before 1.3, I think it was safe to say that I think there was a lot of things in the Empire book that was just a little bit overpriced for what they were, because you're basically paying for the synergy potential. And I think across the board there's been those little price drops, which I think help the army a lot, because they all mount up. I really like that.
We mentioned them before, State Militia, the next unit.
State Militia. So yeah, these guys have been a real point of contention within the Empire community, because basically they're incredibly points efficient for what they are.
8 points? Is that same as before?
Yeah, same as before. They actually got slightly cheaper, because they're 80 points for 10, and it's now 6 points for additional models, whereas it was 8.
Nice.
They're still scoring, but they've lost support unit.
Right. Basically can't use them as alternatives to light infantry, which is
exactly. Good. Yeah. I think that was the big reason for that. So, we'll talk about the unit, but just to run through what they are first. So they come with paired weapons as they did before. You can give them bows for 2 points per model. You can give them pistols for 4 points per model. And if they're equipped with ranged weapons, you can give them skirmisher, and they lose scoring for an additional point per model. And then they can take champion musician standard, but they can't take enchantments on their banners. There's still the max 15 models if they're skirmishing, and if they take bows or pistols, they additionally count towards the auxiliary slot in the army. I think this is a good change, because it keeps the pistol militia or bow militia skirmishers viable. The big problem is, because they've lost support, they're no longer insignificant to parent units. So whereas before you would throw them out as a screen normally, and redirectors, and a chaff essentially, whereas now if they flee through lines, that causes morale checks, which, you know too well actually, cause issues. The amount of times I've had, even before they changed this, the amount of times I've had the militia flee through stuff like knights or the altar or something like that, and panics it and runs off. So this on a bigger scale is potentially an issue. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are moaning about this quite a lot on the forum. I think I'm right in saying that Dan and Felix had spoken to the rules guys, saying maybe they could just get insignificant. As far as I'm aware, that was rejected. I think if they get insignificant, they're maybe too good again.
Yeah, because what does that work out as? So if you're taking 10 with pistols...
Yeah, so sorry, it's actually cheaper so bows used to be 3 points, so now they're 2. Pistols used to be 5, now they're 4. And for skirmish, it used to be 2, now it's 1. So it's now 20 points cheaper to take.
They're 130 points if you run 10 pistols.
Yeah, whereas it used to be 150, so it's 20 points cheaper.
Maybe if they bring that in, maybe they would have to go up in points.
Yeah, I think as they are just now, they are... I don't see why you would take them with paired weapons. This was a big thing on the forum over the last couple of days. They've been talking about what role do they play. I don't really see a role for them with paired weapons. A couple of guys were talking just like chaff, because 80 points for 10 guys is good. So I guess you could use them like that. But the big reason you take them is to make them skirmishers and to give them either bows or pistols. And I still think they're very good for that. I think they fulfill a different role from light infantry, especially because they've lost support. I think they're in a good position just now, like that. Going into 2.0, if this is how they stay. They're still going to make it into lists, but they'd fulfill a different role to light infantry, which is the big issue with them.
Yeah, I think if they get additional rules at that price, I think they start taking away from light infantry again.
Yeah, I agree. I think even insignificant...
it's a really good rule.
Oh, it's super good, and I kind of feel like I'm betraying some of my Imperial colleagues on the forum by saying this, but I do think that if they get insignificant, they either need to go up in points, or they just become too good, I think. Because then you can start using them as screens for stuff like the chickens without any fear of them panicking the chickens. And I think that's where they start becoming, probably too good. I still really like them. They're still in my 2.0 plans. Not like they've taken a massive hit. I think they've just changed slightly in how you would use them.
Even taking like 10 skirmish pistols, 130 points, it's a cheap little unit that if you've got the points spare, you could keep around to protect.
Exactly, yeah. And they're
artillery.
Well, yeah, and they're still good wizard bunkers because they're skirmishers. Yeah. But that's another thing, yeah, because if you give them insignificant, then characters can't join them.
It's true.
So then they lose that. Yeah, I think they're fine as they are. I think people are kind of over worried about it. They still do exactly what they were doing before. They've just their role in terms of their shooting contribution to the army has changed a bit. But I still think they're really good.
The thing is, you've got access to things now in the book to give you like 18-inch range on your commanding presence, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
You can offset that risk more easily now than you could before.
Yeah.
If you're worried about it charging through your own stuff.
So the last core unit is El Toro Cav. They are basically the same. They're 180 points for 5. You can get up to additional 10. They're 2 points cheaper, so they're 34 points now for additional models. Their stats are exactly the same, except from they now come with Lances standard, and they've lost the option to get great weapons. And it's now 4 points for a shield, so they're slightly more expensive. The standard way to take these before was to give them the great weapons and the shields, so they're 1 up against shooting, 2 up in combat, but they just grind out strength 5 hits, and just take them as 5s, and use them as objective grabbers, which they're very good at doing. But I never really liked the idea of Great Weapon Cav. I know there's guys in the forum that if you look at the Huns or whatever and they use blah 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 blah. I mean, history is my thing, and I don't think it's a good idea. I think it doesn't really fit. Sure, knights on foot use great weapons, but I think you'll struggle to find examples of armoured knights using, two-handed swords while on horseback. Anyone that's ridden a horse knows how fucking hard it is. So I think it makes sense that they've got knights. They've got lances. And then, of course, you can now take if you've got a knight commander in the army, so it's not compulsory and he doesn't need to be your general. You can choose to upgrade them for 10 points each to knightly orders, aka bastardized versions of knightly orders, where the knights get +1 defensive skill, +1 defensive skill, +1 strength, and +1 armor penetration. And then they can swap their lance for cavalry picks for free if they're knightly orders.
And that gets them AP3.
AP3. I mean, we've already kind of talked about them when we were talking about the Knight Commander, but I think they're still going to be used as the 5-man units and objective grabbers. When I was kind of playing around with lists earlier, that's how I would kind of envisage them. I don't think, even with the orders and stuff, I don't think they put out enough damage. And I think they get too expensive if you do the knightly orders and put the Knight Commander in it, and even if you put a prelate in it. I mean, that's what I was doing with the proper knightly orders before.
Yeah.
But their saving grace was the front rank got 2 attacks, and your champion got 3. So they were dishing out, a lot of pain on the charge. And I just don't think you get anywhere near as much.
Yeah, I think before, the way you were running them, that was your hammer. So you were going after the big threats, the monsters and stuff in your opponent's list. I think if you run it now with these upgrades, I think it becomes almost more like an accessory unit, where it's there to grind. You're relying on the 1-up armor. If you take picks and stuff, you're AP3, but it's the strength 4 that restricts them, so you'd be relying on magic and stuff.
Yeah, I know you like the pick for the AP3. I wouldn't take the pick. I would keep them with lances. Yeah,
I think the lances are totally viable, and it just depends on what they're going to be used for.
Yeah.
If you're running the Knight Commander, it's a half-decent bunker for him to go in. If you kit him out so that he's doing a little bit more of the damage against the right targets, they could still be quite good.
Yeah.
You're not going to be wanting to charge, the wrong thing. You can't go after monsters with them, but maybe against MSU lists, 10-man units.
Yeah.
Especially against 10-man warrior units. Having the AP3 is very good.
Yeah, I think, maybe like that, and especially if you took them with the Knight Commander. So you've got the Knight Commander in the unit. If you've got maybe a Marshal nearby, or even a Marshal BSB in the unit, you make them the parent, you have your 2 wings of shooters either side, and then you probably take 15, or at least make sure that you've got 3 ranks, and then give them the fight an extra rank order. That could potentially be okay, but again, I'm just not convinced that they've got enough hitting power.
Yeah, I don't think they're as good as how you used to run them.
Yeah, and I think they're more expensive now. I need to actually sit and work that out. But
I worked out for 9 guys with the picks and the upgrades. They're 552 points.
Is that with the Stalker?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's slightly cheaper than Knightly Orders, but again, Knightly Orders dish out more pain.
Yeah, the thing with for all that they've got a 1-up, they're still on the Resilience 3.
Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, Knights aren't really going to be heavy hitters in the book anymore. But I think that's a trend across the book. We don't really have heavy combat hitters apart from Imperial Guard now.
Yeah, I suppose that kind of ties in more with the overall theme of the book and helps differentiate them more from KOE as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's undoubtedly the reason they changed Knightly Orders, because Knightly Orders probably needed a bit of a buff because they're probably too expensive for what they did. I just took them because I really enjoyed them, and I loved that unit, just riding about punking stuff. But they probably did need a buff, and if you buffed them, they probably got too good and they were encroaching on equity and territory. So I understand, but the beta's put in place, so nothing's set in stone. So if the community kind of turn back and say, no, we want Knightly Orders back, there's a good chance that'll happen. When I heard that Knightly Orders were cut, I was upset, because I've always kind of seen special Knightly Orders as, intrinsically part of the Empire kind of setup. Now time's passed, and I've kind of been thinking about this more and more. It's forced me to think about lists slightly differently, so it might end up being a good thing. I just think that the only way you're going to see Cav is probably just in the 5-man units for objective grabbers. I think people will try the night buses, so I just don't think they're going to work.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess we just need to wait and see.
Yeah, they might work, and I might just look like a complete prick because I've said that and it's recorded, but we'll see.
So, moving on to special. So, first entry is the Imperial Guard at 195 points.
Yeah, this is super easy. They've stayed exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah, same points, same stats. They can still swap out their shields for great weapons for 3 points. Literally exactly the same.
Okay, so moving on. Knights of the Sun Griffin.
Yep.
Exactly the same?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
So 280 points for 3 models.
Yeah, and then you're 100 points for an extra chicken, and then 10 points per model if you want to give them the lance and shield, which is the way I normally run them. I really like chickens. They've often caused me a lot of heartache because they're kind of stuck in the position where they're really good at taking out certain things, but against other things they're not good enough.
They're not super expensive, really.
They're not, yeah. So I think the 2 units of 3 with the lance, shield, standing musician for, I think it's 350 points, is still very good. It's really good value for money. And I'm trying to order a couple more chickens so I can run, because I've only got 4 just now. But I think the 2 units of 3 is probably, really viable. Just because we brushed over Imperial Guard, I think because of the synergies you can now do, I think Imperial Guard are better for the same points cost. They still have the issue that they're Resilience 3, so they will get tuned up against the wrong things, but I think there's definitely options there to make them really strong.
We were talking about some of the builds, and potentially that's a really scary unit with some of the synergies you can get, especially with the various different spells and stuff you've got access to now. Some of the banners, being able to stack banners, that's a really good unit.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about the Death Star thing, but again, there's no point really going on about that because we will just need to wait and see what people play and how things work out.
Yep. Next category?
Imperial
Auxiliaries.
So the first one's the Imperial Rangers.
These are definitely changed.
Yeah, these are definitely changed and changed for the better. So they're now 90 points for 5, so 10 points cheaper. And they're 13 points for additional models, whereas they were 17. So overall, a decent price drop. Their stats are the same. They're still scouts, they're still skirmishers, but they've now got a new rule called Frontiersman, whereby all models with it automatically pass panic tests caused by terror. And they're also Beast Hunters, and the Beast Hunters rule is an attacking shooting rule, whereby when they use their bows, which is the only option they can get, their shooting attack gains an extra shot, and they gain lethal strike against beasts.
So, pretty good at taking out monsters.
Yeah, I really like these. The Skirmish Scout is really nice. I think just units of 5, a couple units of 5.
I was going to say, would you run these as a unit of 10 or 5?
Probably just 5 to keep them cheap, because then if they're just 5, against monster lists, the best thing that could possibly happen is you piss off a monster and it goes chasing after them. Or, worst case scenario, it's 90 points of chaff. And I actually think just as chaff, this is something that Felix said to me earlier as well, just as chaff, they're really nice.
Yeah. I mean, scouts are a really nice rule, but if you know they've got it, it's easy to mitigate against when you're doing your deployment.
Yeah, and you can even just use them in the same way that we were using Pistol Militia as a screen.
Yeah.
Because they then provide you with a kind of a terror blanket.
Yeah, so in some ways they're actually better than the Militia.
Yeah.
Depending on how you want to use them.
I think these will definitely make it in lists. I think probably 2 5-man units is going to be a big thing. I really like them. Again,
yeah, they're good.
You're really just hunting for 6s for their shooting.
You are, but you've got that multi-shot now.
Exactly.
Which is good.
The one thing you do need to watch, though, is because the lethal strike's only against beasts, and not all monsters are beasts. So the Gortak, for instance, is infantry.
What?
Yeah, I think the Giant's infantry as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for a Giant, but when you've got a monster from the Beast Herds book that looks like a Gortak, is called a Gortak, isn't actually a beast, I think that's a little bit confusing.
So just for all those marshals out there, just watch what you're sending them against. And make sure that if you're doing the kind of scout drop behind the monsters, that you're actually getting those lethal strikes. Cause
I love your concern for fellow Empire players.
We've got to look out for each other. It's a tough world out there.
There's a lot of bullshit you've got to look out for.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Gortaks in particular. I don't know if it's just because I play Nick a lot and I come up against Gortaks.
If I started you on a fucking Gortak.
Yeah, probably. But I think for Empire, they're just really hard to deal with. Because if your cannons don't take them off, there's not a lot else that you've got. Because they rip through steam tanks and stuff like that. So I think they're a really good counter to Empire. And I've had games where Gortaks just rip apart an entire army because you haven't managed to kill them. So it's a little bit disappointing that the Rangers, who are kind of our new anti-monster option, won't really be able to help us against them. But we'll wait and see.
What you need is a War Shrine. War Shrines are anti-Gortak hunters.
Oh, apparently, yeah. Actually, what we need is the rules team to make Gortaks beasts, and then everyone's happy.
Yeah, everything in the Beast Third Army just had to be beasts.
Yeah. Fucking lethal strike everywhere. Oh man, that would be beautiful. Just like... Yeah, so they're really good, really cheap. I think you'll see multiple units of them.
Cool. Moving on. Writers.
Right.
150 points for 5 models.
These guys have
max
also remained
20
the same.
models per army.
Yeah, that's the big change.
Yeah.
They're exactly the same all across the board. Even the points for like heavy armor still 4 points, brace of pistols still 6, and repair gun still 6. But the max 20 is the big change.
So no 30 models on the table ran as 3 10-man blocks with the repeater guns.
This is essentially the anti-Felix rule. Disrupt the bullshit that he was pulling. But it's quite funny. I was looking at Felix has made up a couple lists, and he's still got 3 units of Writer. They're just 6-man units now.
That's funny.
Yeah, they're super good. I think they're still the best light cav in the game. I think almost every Empire army will still have 2 units of them, if not 3. The pistol and the repeater gun are both, I would say, equally viable. Depends how you want to use them. I normally use them with the brace pistol, because I like getting up and fucking with people, and they annoy people, and people...
They're really good.
Yeah, people just worry about them too much.
I think just because they can march 16, so they can just get right round behind you, and if you've got war machines, or if you don't go after them, the issue is that if you play 6 turns and they're pecking away at you the whole time.
Yeah, and march test and stuff, and just getting in the way, and...
Yeah, you do need to kind of deal with them somehow, so they're very points efficient.
Yeah. And I'm glad they stayed the same, because I think a lot of army books, and we're probably guilty of this as well, like when you're playing against an army, there's always certain units that outperform others, and they're the kind of vocal points of keyboard warriors. So, like, you know, Writers are overpowered, State Militia are overpowered, and they're not overpowered, they're just good units in our book that doesn't really contain many standout units by themselves. But because they're light troops and they kind of perform that light troop element of the army very well, I'm glad they've not massively nerfed them, they've kept them the same, and they're going to continue being seen on the board as a result.
Yeah, for all that, you know, you've lost 1 cav unit in the book effectively. It's nice that they've kept this one, because this is very EOS.
Yeah.
It's very fluffy to the army, so I think it made sense to keep them.
And I'm still going to try out the 10-man Writer unit fire and impact thing. I don't think it's going to work, but I think it's going to be funny.
Not against spears.
Not against spears. The fire and impact's just a cool rule. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I've got this idea about using it in 10-man units. I basically just use them as cuirassier, but I don't think it's not going to work. But I'll try it.
See, that would have been a cool, like, if they had somehow managed to, like, bridge the gap between, like, a Writer and an Electro Cav unit, whereby it could do both. It could have, like, a pistol, but when it gets into combat, it's a little bit better.
I think that's the risk, that they just become too good, and instead of doing one thing well, they maybe do 2 things poorly.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, they're still awesome.
So, moving on to the Imperial Armory. So, some changes here.
Some changes here, yeah. The big thing is the 0 to 4. So it was 0 to 3 now. We can now take 4 artillery pieces, and now that artillery pieces are individual drops, this is very, very nice, and I'm very excited about this.
So most of the pieces in it of themselves are the same. Mortars are now limited to 2 per army, whereas before there were 3.
Yep, you could take 3. Yep.
So just 2 now, but with some of the changes, you are more likely to want to take some other stuff. So the big change is the Imperial Rocketeer, which is Catapult 1. It has a range of 15 to 48 inches, so longer range now. Before it was a max of 36.
Yeah,
right?
So a bit longer, yeah.
Yeah. Shots 3, Strength 5, AP 3, multiple wounds T3. They've lost Flaming, but they treat all misfires as a malfunction. So they effectively just lose a wound if they misfire. And each of the 3 shots can cause a misfire. Yep. So if you roll 3 ones, it's just 3 wounds.
Yeah.
Would you think, is this a lot more tempting now? Would you feel this?
Well, in my head, my list now is 2 volley guns, 2 Rocketeers.
So I'll take that as a yes.
I think these are awesome. I think 180 points is like the golden number for war machines.
I was going to say, I've just realised that they're actually under 200 points.
Yeah, I think that is like 180 to 200, I think is the sweet spot for war machines, because they're cheap enough that if ambushers come on or fast cav get them, it's okay. But there's still war machines that can, swing the odds sometimes. And I think these in particular, they're so multi-purpose. They're going to be awesome at taking out enemy bolt throwers and enemy war machines. They're going to be awesome at taking out monsters cav, monsters infantry, and they're even going to be good against taking out individual characters. Even stuff like the zombie dragons, which I doubt will be a thing in 2.0, but if you've got 2 Rocketeers, 6 shots firing at them, you're going to get some 6s in your wounds, and they're going to be doing D3s, so, it would have been awesome if they had flaming attack still, but I think these are really, really nice. Yeah. And obviously you're getting the reroll as well, because they're catapult, so even against, cav, they'll be okay.
So you're getting the partial hit as well.
Yeah. And the partial will go up to strength 3, so, against, stuff like Chosen, little 10-man units of Chosen, they're probably still pretty good. Obviously that's not their optimal targets, but...
Yeah, well, they're only 180 points, so...
Yeah, the big thing now as well, that you half AP as well as strength now. So they would go down AP2, which is still nice. Strength 3, AP2.
Yeah, no, AP2 is decent.
Yeah. And if they blow themselves up, it's only 180 points, which I think is, that goes back to the sweet spot. That's nice.
Well, I like you're going to have to roll 5 1s over 2 turns to kill it.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see if it blows up, still resolve the shots that were successful, or does it blow up as the shots are going out so you don't get them? That's maybe something to flag up.
And then the other artillery weapons are as is?
Volley guns got cheaper.
Oh, right, yeah, it's only 200 points. Yeah. What was it just now? 235?
235, which was the big thing, because you couldn't take 2 volley guns in a steam tank. Whereas
now you can.
Yeah. Volley guns have retained a lot of, almost a shadow of terror because of old Hellblasters. They're not as good as them, but they're still really good. I really like them. Good. Yeah.
They're 200 points.
200 points is bananas good.
If you roll well on 1, strength 5, AP3, that's a lot of damage.
I've had games where they do nothing, and I've had games where they obliterate almost entire armies.
Well, you've taken off a unit of Crushers against me before.
Oh, easy, yeah. I've taken... Fuck, there was one game where we played, and it was a volley gun in the ruin, and it just kind of didn't stop all game. It just took units off.
In 1.3, a unit of Crushers is 500 odd points.
Yeah.
So it's just got 2.5 times its points back in 1 round of shooting.
Yeah.
So when it operates well, it's excellent.
Yeah.
And having 2 should be a little bit, of insurance. And like you say, it's just that 24-inch range of death, especially when you are looking to get the charges off. You can afford to hang back and let your opponent get within that range.
Yeah.
Get 1 or 2 turns of shooting in. So.
It does have hard counters like bolt throwers. Bolt throwers chew up volley guns just because they can outrange them. But now, because you're comboing volley guns with Rocketeers, you've got...
and not every army has bolt throwers.
Exactly, yeah. No, I really like it. I think volley guns are now very, very tasty, if they weren't already tasty. The cannon is the same. Yep, it's the same, but it's 5 points cheaper, which I don't think is a big deal. But
yeah, if other stuff's got cheaper, then it makes sense, I guess, to make it a little bit more comparative.
One thing I would flag just now is the changes to line of sight is going to affect war machines. So stuff like mortars won't be able to sit behind infantry units because they can't see.
Okay.
So you're going to have to make gaps for them, which makes sense. Less sense for the mortar, but for the cannon at least. It was stupid that a cannon could fire through, massed infantry. But the same goes for the...
Makes total sense that a mortar should be, though.
Yeah, they might have to change that. One way around it, I know that the dwarf catapult is large.
Okay.
So he can see over them. That's fine for catapults, but for a mortar, which isn't actually that big, I don't know how that would work. But to be fair, mortars were really good, so maybe that's the kind of little hit that they needed. Mm-hmm. If I'm brutally honest. Line of sight doesn't really bother the volley guns because they're always getting deployed on the line anyway. And then for your Rocketeers, obviously you're going to have to watch your lines of fire. But yeah, the rules for the war machine shooting, as long as you've got an avenue of fire, you can fire. So they've not been hit as bad as archers, which have also lost volley fire.
And what you were saying about keeping their lines of sight, they've only got a 60mm frontage. So, if you're keeping an inch
gap, you could still...
There's not much that's going to be able to charge it.
Yeah, there's shenanigans that you can definitely pull. So it's not a massive hit, but you're going to have to think about where you deploy your war machines a bit more. But yeah, you can do a lot of nice combos now.
Cool. So you happy with that then?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I don't like cannons because one dice is just not reliable, and normally you only get two rounds of shooting with a cannon. By which point, if you've not killed what you were shooting at, it's going to kill you. It's got a fear factor, but I don't think that. It's so frustrating to misfire turn 1 and have 260 points or 255 points do nothing for the game. I know, like, I wouldn't be happy if my big Gribbly got taken off round 1 by a cannon. So I think they're at the right power level. Just for me personally, I just hate their not being reliable. The same goes with mortars, but less so because obviously you've got the catapult and they're a bit more multifunctional because you can fire the big shot stuff or you can use them as catapults. Yeah. So I'm happy because it fits my playstyle, this change. I really love the volley guns. I know you guys hate them. So I think 2 volley guns is probably going to be a staple of my lists until I find a reason not to take them.
Yeah, okay. Until they both misfire turn 1.
Yeah, and then in which case they're getting thrown in the bin, and I'm probably going to take Flagellants, which we'll get onto.
Okay, so going into Soonest Fury category, the first entry is the Arcane Engine at 280 points. And we kind of mentioned before that, by and large, it stayed the same. The bound spells, which you have access to on either of the different upgrade options, are both from Cosmology now.
Yeah, so they've changed, yeah.
So you've got Perception of Strength from Cosmology on the Arcane Shield, and you have Ice and Fire on the Foresight option.
Yeah, so Perception of Strength is the +1 Strength, +1 Armor Penetration, or, the minus. Yeah. And the Ice and Fire is 2d6 Strength 4 hits with Armor Penetration 0, Magical attacks, Flaming attacks, Divine attacks, or 2d6 Strength 4 hits with Strength 4, Armor Penetration 3. And the big thing about that is that it's range 24. I think a big problem with the Foresight one was that Lightning Reflex was a nice thing, but the bound spell wasn't as good as Know Thy Enemy on the Arcane Shield. Mm-hmm. So you've now got a buff wagon that's distracting and can give you plus strength. And you've got a buff wagon which gives you Lightning Reflexes, but is actually decent ranged magical attack as well.
Yeah. I quite like the Ice and Fire option. I like the more offensive build. I would probably run Imperial Guard in a list with this.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very, very nice option now. I've always liked the distracting, just because I've always felt that the distracting saves my bacon more than the Lightning Reflexes.
If you're building your whole, certainly if you're building your core to be quite defensive, that's the go-to.
Yeah, I think I'm quite a defensive player though, so that's probably just my inner bias.
Your core guys are only like strength 3, so being able to give them strength 4 with spears is really nice.
Yeah, both are very good. I still prefer shield, but I think Foresight is very nice now with the 24-inch magical. And because the changes to the bound, I actually think this is one of the situations where the changes really work. Because right at the start of the magic phase, you can just put 2 dice down and say, right, I'm doing Ice and Fire on that unit. And right off the bat, your opponent needs to decide whether they're going to 1 dice that or 2 dice it. I just think that's where Empire are really going to receive their boost, is those synergies between bound and magic. Proper magic. Same goes with the Prelate. You just put your 2 dice down and go, right, I'm going to get reroll to wound. And, because of the lures you've got nasty stuff in your lures. They're not really going to want that going off either. So it's all about forcing hard decisions on your opponent, and I think now there's very effective ways to do that.
Yeah, and the model also has Channel 1, so it's pulling in a Veil token.
Exactly, yeah. So if you've got that, you've got a Prelate, you've got a Wizard, you're getting 3 Veil tokens.
So you're getting an extra magic dice.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
I think that's the way you need to do it. I think you need to guarantee yourself an extra dice, because some of the cards, you're talking same number of dice, and it's really going to come down to what Veil tokens you've got. Yeah. So I think your ability to generate those is going to be really important. Yeah, I think that's really nice.
Very cool. I like it. I think Magic is all very tactical now. Very tactical phase. Whether you're attacking or defending. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying it out. And I think there's a lot of very nice things you can do with Empire.
So, next entry is the Flagellants.
Flaggies.
30 points. This time they come at a minimum unit size of 15.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be a common feature across a lot of the books. They're up in a lot of the kind of minimum sized engines.
To reduce MSU a wee bit.
Another kind of standard change to a lot of the books is they've lost flails, and they've just got great weapons now, so they're keeping their +2 strength, which is good. And in a sense, it's on the one hand, it's good because they're losing that +1 to be hit, although changes to the frenzy rule kind of offset that.
They've been changed to defensive skill 1, so they're going to be hit on 2s by most stuff anyway, so they don't really care.
Okay, that's good. So they've got Unbreakable as before, like you said, they're frenzied. They have Fanatical, as they already had, and they had Zealots, which they already had.
Yeah, I think
pretty cool.
Yeah, they're very.
They have
nice.
Battle Focus as well. Sorry. So
yeah,
it's an additional rule, so they're getting their extra hits on 6s.
Yeah. Did you mention the additional models? Because I think that's the big thing here.
They may add up to 15.
Yeah.
So you can have 30 now.
30. Yeah. So 30 flagellants is, a thing again.
I really like when people run the smaller size units just as, I don't know, they're almost like your version of like a fanatic. You basically throw them in front of things, right? You're going to have to go through that, and you'll probably kill them, but you're going to be getting all of your attacks. They're frenzied, they're getting battle focus as well, they're strength 5, they're going to be taking damage on the way in. And if they don't wipe them out because they're unbreakable, it's a roadblock. I think even 15 models on their own is quite an attractive option.
Yeah, I think...
Keep them cheap.
I think they're going to have to change their limitations, because just now they're limited to 3 units per army. I think they're probably going to have to change that to like 0 to 60 models per army. Because just now, as it is, you could take 3 units of 30, 90 flagellants. 3 massive blocks of Unbreakable is a bit gamey. I would have to work out the points actually, because that might put them over their soonest Fury allowance. I don't think it would actually. Probably still too cheap. I'm glad that they've got 30 back though, because I know a lot of Empire players have got loads of flagellants, and they've kind of almost built their army around flagellants, so it's cool that those guys can field their big units again.
So for a unit of 30 models, it's 500 points.
Yeah. So 30%. So yeah, so you could still take 3 units as 30, right? It's 1500.
Don't know if you had multiple prelates, loads of fanatics, witch hunters flying around, and altars and stuff. It's quite fluffy, I suppose.
Oh yeah, you could make a really cool kind of like almost crusading army.
Yeah, and the thing is, as well, against the wrong matchup, you're just going to get shot to shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's still resilience 4. I mean, the big thing is that they will die. So you need, I think, if you either use them 2 ways, like use them like road bumps, like you said, or use them in the big blocks. My issue with the road bumps is that I think they're too expensive for that. 230 points. I think there's better, cheaper chaff in the army to do a similar job. And my issue with the 10-man blocks was always that you're basically resigning yourself that 160 points isn't going to be there at the end of the game. So if you've got 2 units, that's, 220 points that you're not getting back. Or sorry, 320 points. But I know a lot of guys like them, but I think the 15-man units is kind of more in keeping with their fluff. And great weapons, so they're strength 5, battle focus. They could, especially if you put a prelate in there, a prelate in a unit of 30, that's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, especially if they're backed up with something like the Arcane Engine, giving them lightning reflexes.
Yeah, so you could, there's some nasty flagellant builds, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think you would just put them in line though, so you would have 8 wide. They're unbreakable, so you don't care about combat res, and it's all just about churning out hits. So yeah, I really like the changes. I think you're going to see a lot more flagellants.
They weren't super popular before. I really liked them, but I think there were just other things in the book.
Exactly, yeah.
Because there's good chaff options elsewhere, and Imperial Rangers are good. So, I mean, that might be eating into those kind of points that you're designating towards chaff and redirectors and stuff. So,
I think a good thing overall is that there's now multiple options that are all quite good. Yeah. There will be different lists. I don't think there's going to be there's probably going to be one list that's stronger than the rest, but it's not going to be like the Ogre Hell part or Hellfist list where it's just everyone's running the same thing.
So, last entry of the book.
Last one.
Steam Tank. 420 points. So quite a lot of changes to this compared to the previous Steam Tank.
Yeah.
It has a base movement now of 4d3 as its advance. Was it 3d6 before?
It was, yeah, it's top one. But actually, importantly, so obviously the Steam chart's gone.
Yeah.
But it could choose to go 1d6, 2d6, or 3d6. Whereas now it's just, if it chooses to move, it's 3d3 all the time, so you don't get to choose.
43.
Sorry, 43, yeah.
And obviously it cannot pursue or overrun. but it's kept its unbreakable. Towering Presence, Fear, and Steam Powered, which we've gone over. It's got 7 health points. Is that what it was just now? Is it 6 wounds just now or 7 wounds?
7 wounds. Tough to 6.
Yeah, that always catches me out. I always think it's 6. Resistance 6. It's strength 5 now.
Yeah.
So it's got 3d3 grinds. It's kept the breath weapon, strength 2 AP3, and the steam cannon, which is range 36, one shot, strength 7, AP6, multiple wounds D3, clipped wings.
Yep, so it's got a pip stronger strength for the big shot because it was strength. Oh no, sorry, it was strength 7 before, sorry.
Okay.
So it stayed the same. It's got clip wings, which you never had before, but it's got a little bit of a range reduction because it was 42 inches of full health.
Yeah.
But now it's just 36 all the time, so it's probably a plus and a minus, depending on how lively your steam tank's looking.
Yeah. So it's grinding ability. I mean, it's got strength 5 from strength 6.
Yeah.
But it also has steel ram, which is strength 7. So impact hits are 2d3 at strength 7, which is nice.
Yep.
AP4. Can still do damage on the way in, and then it's effectively a big scary roadblock that can grind away at strength 5, doing 3d3 grind attacks. You're not sold on this now, are you?
No, I'm not. I was never a fan of the steam tank, and then I went through one of my army wobblies where I was like, I just don't know what to do, man. And the steam tank was probably the only unit in the book that I hadn't tried. Because I never liked the kind of visual part of it. But I tried it, and I almost instantly fell in love with it. It's just so fucking good. I got off my high horse pretty quick.
If in doubt, just throw the tank at it.
Exactly. It's just so versatile. Ballistic skill 4 on the cannon was so good as well. It was fast. It didn't really kill things, but it was just, if in doubt, throw the tank at it. It was just so useful. For an army that really struggles to have stuff that holds stuff up apart from flagellants, which had their problems in 1.3, it was just such a good option to have. But it's 20 points cheaper than it was, but I don't think it's going to make its way into my lists. Not initially anyway. And I think that's for a couple reasons. First and foremost, the 4 artillery. So the ability to take the 4 artillery. If this tank had stayed the same, I think even the 4 artillery probably just have swayed me over. But the fact that it's changed, I'm even less inclined to take it. The 4d3, I think is too slow. I should point out, this has caused a big debate on the Empire forum. Is like, what is this tank?
Right. Okay.
Because there's a party that think it should be really killy, and there's a party that think that it shouldn't be killy. It should just be a tank. It should just be really hard to kill. I am part of the latter party. I think 4d3 is too slow. It's too unreliable. Because what's that? That's like average 8, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 8 inches. That's too slow. The losing the strength 6 in the grind means that you're less likely to throw it in against monsters. Because most monsters are toughness 6. Empire really struggle against monsters, because unless you cannon them, you don't have answers, really. So the tank was always good as a last line of defence, and I wouldn't be too... it's still 1-up armour, toughness 6, so it's still going to hold up the monster that's hitting it. But it was always nice to do a bit of damage back to it.
Yeah, it's the unbreakable as well, though.
Yeah.
Like, even if you lose, you're not going anywhere. Which, if you're using it for that purpose, to hold something up, it gives you time to get something else in to do the damage that the tank can't do.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah. You maybe just can't be as liberal with it as you could be before. You can't just say, right, you just hold that flank, and I'm going to go on the other side of the table. You might want to use this more as a support piece rather than just a roadblock. But, like you say, it's 420 points, so... I
think that was a big thing that everyone lost before, was that it was crazy good value for what it was in 1.3. Even with this chart, it was still so good. I think it's probably still good value for what it is. I think it just needs to be faster. If it was a bit faster, I would still be inclined to take it, or to try it out at least.
So how did the chart work before? When it was at full wounds, it moved 3d6.
So it was 1d6, 2d6, or 3d6. So you could really choose how far you wanted it to go. So it could go zooming across the place, or it could go nowhere. Whereas now, if it moves, you have to go full 4d3. And even if you want to go full speed, you're probably only going to go about 8 inches.
So how would you change this? What would you do to it?
If you could bring back the speed rule and put it back up to 440 and keep the rest changes as it is, I would take it. I don't know if that would maybe make it too good. The other option is that you just make it flat advance and march rate. So 6 advance, I don't know, 12 march or whatever.
Obviously all this has been playtested to a degree. They've obviously got the reasons for pricing it at that, but I know what you're saying. In my mind, because this is a fantasy game, and the idea that you've got any kind of mechanised unit, aka a tank, I think the fact that it is a little bit slower, to me, makes sense. Like, rolling 3d6 and it charging across 18 inches, I don't really get.
No, it was stupid. I totally agree about that. I think that I'm fine with it being slower, but it's the fact that you could roll 4, like, a 1s or 2s, and it goes 4 inches. Like, that's not slow, that's debilitating when you're playing a game.
I mean, I didn't really have much of a problem with the chart before.
Neither did I, but, you know,
I think it made sense. Like, the more damaged it gets, it becomes less reliable. Kind of like what they're doing now with, like, the giant rules, where the more wounds you inflict, the angrier it gets.
Yeah, I think it's quite ironic that they've kind of implemented it on other things, but taken away from the tank. But I think there was a vocal group on the forum that really complained about this. I totally agree that it should be slow and it should just be tanky. So I'm okay with the strength 5, and the strength 7 on the charge makes sense. So I'm okay with that. Keeping the steam cannon good but shorter range I'm fine with that as well. That's good. It's just the speed. I think 4D3 is just too slow, and it's too unreliable.
I mean, hopefully that comes out in testing then.
Yeah.
And hopefully people do test it, and they don't just say, I don't like that, I'm not going to use it. And then you're on the risk of it doesn't get changed, because there's not been enough work to justify any change. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still random, which I think it still kind of fits the aesthetic of the tank.
Random movement's a really good rule, because you can 360 pivot and all that stuff. Yeah. But, I don't know, maybe 5D3? Is that too much? Because what would that would be, 15 max?
15 max, 5 minimum, an average of around 10.
I would say that's probably okay. I don't know. So, I mean, I'm sure the balancing guys and the points guys have got points.
They'll have reasons, but
it doesn't make me want to take it just now, especially with the changes to artillery. And if you want a unbreakable unit, I don't see why you wouldn't just take flagellants now. I mean, you're still paying for a resilient 6 1-up armor Goliath that will not die, but it's just the speed. I think if they just give it just make it a wee bit faster, a wee bit more reliable, it's totally fine where it is. I would even accept the going back up to 440 points. I do agree that it was stupid.
To go higher? If they said, right, we'll give you 3d6, but it's going to have to be like 450.
I would pay that.
Right.
If you got the option between the 1d6, 2d6 or 3d6, and it's 450, I would take that. It'll be interesting to hear what other people think about it as well, because obviously this has been a discussion on the Empire forum. I think sometimes it's good to get other people in on it, like opponents, like when you're just playing against people.
For me, like playing against a steam tank it depends on how it's used. If it's used right, it can really like fuck up like your plan, because it's just the unbreakable, and so because it's toughness 6, 7 wounds, 1-up armor, unless you throw something at it that can actually round all those defensive stats, it's really going to get in your way, and therefore you have to send something against it that's equivalent points or more, and so that stops you from doing something else.
Yeah.
So I agree that it should be something to soak up damage, or just to basically fuck with your opponent's ability to get its heavy hitting stuff into your soft stuff.
Yeah.
And I think from that point of view, it's fine. I see your argument though with the speed, because if you're rolling low, then effectively it's basically able to keep up with marching infantry, and that's about it. So it's never clearing your lines.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's not doing anything. You're effectively paying for a more expensive cannon, which
isn't as good.
You just bring a cannon.
Yeah.
I like the aesthetic of the tank. I like a lot of the rules surrounding the tank. It's just the speed, like you say. Going to hold it back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much of a limitation. So that's it. That's the new book.
That's the book.
So overall, you're pretty happy?
I am. I think that the small price drops kind of across the board are good. The changes, particularly to the parent support mechanic, is very good. Our magical items are very good. There's definitely more flexibility in the synergies. They're still obviously restrictive in the sense that you need them to go your way for the army to work, but that's why you play Empire. If you don't want that, go play Warriors. So I think there's the changes to the Rangers is really nice as well, and the artillery. My overriding fear is that all these changes encourage a more static and shooting playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the buffs seem to be targeted towards shooting.
Yeah.
Between artillery, light infantry, the Rangers are certainly better, as you say. And I suppose as well, more so now, you can see the tendency for people to go more Death Star.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because, like, when I read this book, I'm not an Empire player, but when I read this, I'm like, there's so many nice synergies, there's so many cool rules, really nice character builds, potentially, and you end up sinking so many points into your characters, and you run out of places to put them, and then you effectively create these big, imposing, really expensive units that look really scary, but then are probably really easy to counter. So it's finding that balance between the two. For the most part, I mean, all the units are still there, bar one. Some of the least taken units are probably going to get fielded more now, which is good. So in terms of variety of builds, hopefully we still see people taking different things. Like you say, it definitely looks a little bit more flexible, getting that extra lore, and certainly the hereditary spell, I think, is going to make magic a lot more pronounced in the lists, which is good. But again, it's that tendency to whether or not you're going to see Death Stars. Are people going to go multi-wizard, or are they going to just go wizard master and then sink all their points into one place? I think some of those questions are going to be determined by the other army books and what you're going to be coming up against. So it's hard to say, but I think on the whole it's a really nice book. It's kept a lot of its fluffiness. It's certainly the magical items and some of the character rules now even more so, which is really good. I really like that in the book. I really like the buff wagon now. I think the Arcane Engine got better with the new spell.
Yeah, I think, even before in 1.3, it was still so good. For 280 points, it was really good for what it was, and I think the changes to it, although Know Thy Enemy is amazing, we now have quite easy access to it because it's the number one spell in divination.
Yeah.
So we can even cast the Aura version of it now. So yeah, I think it's really good.
And we were saying before we started recording, there's the Cosmology spell, which is very similar.
Yeah.
Which you could take also and potentially stack with Know Thy Enemy, which would be ridiculous.
Yeah, what was that? Like Initiative 7 spears or something like that? We were working at.
+3 agility.
So Initiative 6, yeah. Oh no, +3 plus if you get charged. So what's Initiative 8? Is that right?
Yeah. If they're charged with spears, you get +2 and then +3 with the spell. So yeah.
So stuff like that, I think.
Which is cool. I think that's something you need to bear in mind when you're playing Empire, because there's so many things that interact with one another. I really like that's how the army operates. It's a totally different style of play from my army. And it's funny, I think it's kind of like, the grass is always greener. Like, I'm someone that really likes or really appreciates that my army can work independently of one another. But then there are times where I really like the fact that, or I really would want more synergy. And then I can see it in your book and how everything kind of interlaces and complements one another. So I really like it. I think it looks really good on paper. It's just how this actually stacks up on the table.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be... I don't think we're going to return to whatever version of the rules it was where Empire were top tables. I don't think it's meta-breaking book.
No, I don't think so. I think it's improved upon the areas that the book had. Its originality has definitely been enhanced with the orders, the spells, the synergy in the book. I think it's stronger now, which is really nice. The kind of danger that you've got with the book, potential weaknesses, because you are potentially even more reliant now on characters, that protecting your characters becomes even more important.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit scared that we've become too much of a shooting army when we should be the combined arms army. I'm a little bit scared about the potential Imperial Guard Death Stars. I think it's maybe too easy to load them up. I don't know how effective they would be, really, because I think the issue with Imperial Guard has always been that by the time you buff them up, you get the characters in there, you make them survivable enough, you end up paying for a very expensive unit that other armies can field for cheaper. So I don't know if that's still going to be an issue. That's something that you're just going to have to wait and see. Overall, I really like the book. I like what they've done. I'm obviously a little bit upset about nightly orders, but the general rule from what I've gathered is that when the guys were looking at the books, they had to cut. It was like a plus-minus system, so they had to cut to give, particularly in EOS, because the book was pretty balanced as it was. So I understand why they've been cut. I just think with them being cut, the army really doesn't have any heavy hitters in combat anymore. Because chickens are good, but like we said before, I think they're very general purpose, but that makes them master of none. So, I mean, it really just is Imperial Guard, and like I say, you get to the point sometimes where you sink too many points in Imperial Guard, and they become more of a liability than a boon. There's a lot of nice, cool things, and I'm really looking forward to trying it out on the table. So yeah, overall, I'm very happy about it. And the best thing about it all, actually, is the fact that we actually have a beta phase. So, if you're listening to this and you're an Empire player, talk to your community support guys. Let them know how your games have been going. Let them know the builds you've been playing with. Let them know what armies you've been trashing and what armies you've been trashed by. Because this is all part of the process. So if there's flaws in the book, they should become apparent and we can fix them. And nothing's set in stone as well. So if you want to argue your case for something, argue it. Just if you are talking shite, don't be offended when someone says to you, in fact, sir, you are talking shite.
I think that's, for the last 3 or 4 months, people have been calling for effectively a beta testing, and this is what we're about to get.
Yep.
So use the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, just the last couple of weeks, just with like the advent calendar and what's been getting released, just completely stopped thinking in 1.3 terms, and I'm just really looking forward to playing 2.0 now.
I've got my last game of 1.3 on Friday. I'm playing Nick. And that will be my last game of 1.3. But, I mean, already, I'm just going to use the list that I brought to the meetup the other week, because it's fun, and I'm already thinking 2.0. I'm quite lazy, though. Like, when I was writing out the lists, I was like, I wish I had Battlescribe. And it made me really appreciate the Battlescribe guys for all the work they do. But
I know it. Like, when I wrote my shit list, it was like 4 or 5 A4 pages with just scribbles all over it.
Yeah,
like,
I was the same.
This just makes list building so much more difficult than it should be. It takes the joy out of it.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying out. There's stuff like the Rangers and that I'm gonna look forward to trying out. I mean, the bad thing is that I've got 2 rocket teams that I bought, but I need to paint them now. And I need to paint more handgunners, and I'm thinking about getting new Ranger models, because the guys I've got just now just have bows, so I was thinking getting like proper Ranger looking guys.
Nice.
And all the while, I'm meant to be doing the VC, so personally, it's more painting, but that's probably a good thing.
Christmas is coming up.
Exactly.
Hopefully
2 weeks of not talking to anyone and painting. But thank you for staying with us. I hope that, particularly for the Empire players out there, that was helpful and gave you a bit of insight to the book. Just to reiterate what we were saying, really use the beta testing phase and talk to your army support guys. Get on the forum, let them know what you're thinking. Don't be afraid of posting up in the forum either. I know there's like a group of people that post all the time, and that can be quite intimidating, but there is a risk that you just get a kind of fraction of the community's opinions on these things, where really the team really need everyone chipping in, and that's the only way that we're really going to get a finished product that everyone can enjoy.
And just to reiterate what we said at the beginning about points and stuff, we're hoping that this gets released in and around the book itself being released for people to use and to read.
So you should be able to tell when we're talking shit.
If there are points that have changed, then apologies, but we're obviously working from the most up-to-date version as and when we've been given it. So if things have gone up in points, then just there's reasons for that. Don't, rush to the forums to berate the
Don't be hating.
Just bear that in mind. But I'm pretty sure this has been useful, or at least it's kept you company while I've been doing some painting or whatever in the background.
Paint some lovely Empire men. Or women.
Or if you've been using this to fuel your hate for Empire and you're painting
Nobody
some
hates
warriors
Empire.
or some beast herds or whatever.
What? We're the good guys. What the fuck are you talking about? If you want to contact us, you can send us an email at scottishwildlands@gmail.com. You can jump on Facebook and get involved with the group on there, which is slowly growing, which is nice to see. You can also follow us on Twitter, where we'll be posting all things 2.0 in the new year. And you can get us on the forum, where I'm Lost Cause and Paul is Space Goblin. And apart from that, I think there's only one thing left for us to do, and that's to wish everyone a happy Christmas and a great new year when it comes. And we look forward to playing some 2.0 with you all in the new year.
Yeah, so take it easy, guys. We'll see you next year.
See you later.